What is up, P-Pal? Y'all ready for this? Alexa, play Mercules. Let's get in the zone, people. Thick Boy Thursday. Let's give it up for the thick boys and gals. And tell the team I'm on. And I'm ready when they is. Oh, come on, man. My phone is so slow. I clicked the wrong thing. It takes forever. Alright. Pop open the Facebook. I need the chat open. No. No, come on, stop clicking the wrong stuff. It's like, oh man, it's like I got fat fingers in the computer too. There we go. All right. No one saw that I was on, so let me get a little practice in. I want to give a shout out to Retro Slide, who dropped a follow while I was, I don't know, while I was offline sometime. So, shout out to you, Retro Slide. Alright, let's get it. I want to get better with these guys. Oh, that was the team saying K. So I should be getting an invite any minute. Sorry. Just hit the mic. That was an accidental. What? I just got a heads up that it says. Okay. Actually, let's turn these things on. Let's do that, grab this, and that. Turn this thing to red shield. Pop this. I'm gonna have to drop the drop this, drop that. Actually, I guess I can carry ammo. Yeah, got some of that ammo. Let me grab. Yeah, we'll do that. Back from the sky. Oh man, not at all what I wanted to happen. Wait, I gotta look straight down. Yeah, let me get practice with the thick boy. We're playing mostly thick boys. I gotta get down there quickly, grab a gun, lay waste, get the guns I really want to practice with. Oh. Devotion is a melt machine. Oh. Oh. Here we go. Nothing much. I'm returning to the lobby currently. Oh, I forgot that I had the wrong camera angle on. It was just a picture of my face while I was running around the firing range. Cool.
Oh, so that's all I could see, not the
Yep.
game, just your face. Well, that's the most important part,
yeah.
right?
You guys come here for my beautiful face.
Obviously.
Is Zero not on yet?
What'd you do today? Anything? No, he was on. He was cooking dinner. How'd you back then?
Yeah, I built a
in the
coffee
party.
table. Oh, is he? Oh, he is in the bar.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
I was playing with him earlier.
got back.
Yep. For yourself or for someone else?
For
The
us.
coffee table.
One of the times Kim was playing with Opie when I was streaming, she decided to. Yeah,
Broke the
she
coffee
put,
table.
like, he has like a tug that's like a circular, stretchy thing that was like inside of a ball or something. He chewed the ball apart. So we have a ring of like stretchy tug stuff, and Kim put it around the leg of the coffee table. Figured he could like pull on that because like she put it around like the exercise bike when she's exercising, and he like pulls real hard and it tires him out. She puts it around the doorknob and he pulls real hard and it tires him out. So she put it around the coffee taker, thinking it would do the same thing, and it ripped the leg right off. So, yeah.
Of the
Yeah.
one in the living room? Like that one that raises up so you can eat on? Oh, that sucks.
So we ordered
No,
another
man.
one.
Damn, why didn't you just fix the
I
leg?
mean,
You couldn't do
could
that?
have, but it was all one of the dogs.
Oh, so you ordered one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you made it
Nah.
yourself. Like, went to Home Depot and
Nah.
got wood. That's what I saw. So you ready, Zero? 'Cause, well, we're dropping
yeah.
right now, and we're just going to a real popular spot. And just go all out so we die quick. We'll win the game. Who knows?
Either way, it's gonna be quick
All right, I'm gonna land.
shit.
Quick and painful, just like I like it.
Right up in our body, quick and painful like an ice pick. Yo, dick. You're just gonna fucking. You're like AFK, then all of a sudden you're gonna like chime in and like try to snatch the shit from me. Yo, you mother. Yo, fuck this dude. Fuck this. Oh man. Twice he like speed ran up.
You can always get him killed.
He fucking ran up and stole the shit.
What's that noise? What's the ship dropping somewhere? Oh yeah, the ship's dropping like right here. That'll end things quickly. Let's try to find like a shirt or something.
Oh, I dropped the shirt in his building.
You hit this building
No,
up
I
top
didn't.
yet?
But
Oh,
he
I
might
just
have.
found one.
I'm not fucking. No, he's been chasing me around and stealing my shit.
Bago.
So he did not either. Somebody was up here.
Fucking loser. Ooh, I got a flatline.
I tried to get a flatline, but he fucking snatched it from me.
I was in that far building.
Yeah.
That's where you're at. The one in that
Okay.
corner over
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm at.
Fuck.
Alright, I'm gonna drop this Havoc for this longbow.
There's two of them. What the fuck, dude?
Oh, he
fuck
did pick it up.
I'm dropping slug
Don't let
fire.
him get it.
Oh,
Pick
here's
it
the
up. Don't
bag.
let him get it.
What
I
do you
think
want?
the
Sure.
heavy mag, I think. I'm gonna go pick it up. Where was it?
There's two of them here. Just, yeah, pick them.
Where are they? Where are they?
Oh, here's a blue one. By this shirt here. There's
Oh,
two
yeah.
white over there, and there's a blue one here.
Extended heavy mag here. Level 2.
Oh, he tried to ping it.
Oh, you ain't getting that, bitch.
Guess who
You
doesn't even have a heavy
sucker-ass
gun?
bitch. I don't have something that'll fit on yet. Oh, no, fuck. Oh, God. Blue standard stock. I would have kept it. I was just trying to give it to you since I can't put on anything yet.
Heavy mag here. Level 2.
I don't fucking care, bud.
I need it.
No, that's mine. That's a teammate.
Oh man, you played me. Yeah.
So I still do have the select fire. Oh, the ship. I forgot about it. Oh, it didn't even stop you. Oh, I see people.
Okay.
Only see one. He's like taking his time to loot.
All right, let's get him.
Frag out. Frag out.
You like grenades, bitch?
I just threw a grenade. Oopsie. I'm punching him out of the box.
Picked up as much stuff as I could. I couldn't get everything though. The Phoenix
Nah,
getting
he got
shit.
it.
Oh, did he
Yeah.
really? Oh, fuck. Well, he might have been running to his squad.
Oh, the squad's here. The leave
this
teammate
thing's
died.
Check out care package coming in.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, was not expecting that shit.
Taking fire. I'm down.
Alright, he's down.
Alright, there's caustic gas in stock. I'm coming.
Shots fired and it hit me. Reloading. Down's an enemy. Heads up, grenade.
Got him. Squad wipe. Well, I didn't wipe the squad. I killed the last guy.
Nice kill.
So right that good, I'd say. Going hand
Oh,
mode,
and teammate
bro.
left, so I guess.
No about hand mode. No, fuck him. Good. Our plan worked then, I guess.
Shield battery here.
Ooh, yeah, I don't have any of them. Ooh, I found some.
Yeah, I didn't
bullets.
realize I already had some shield batteries.
And then we just need health.
What's my Evo shield at? 23 to a blue. Yeah.
And we dropping little shield cells. Oh, never mind. I had room after that kit. Need more throwables, so, is there any left around here?
Nah, there's no film.
Yeah, one burning.
Here, there's a view site in there.
One burning ash burning.
Start here.
Oh, fuck yeah. Put a 1 to 2 in there.
Now,
Oh, you're still not healed, Joe.
yeah, I was
Syringes
picking
in one of
syringes
the
up.
boxes.
I didn't want to waste a med kit for it. Alright.
Yeah. Where do you think people are?
I hear shots that way.
Back up that way. I think it's like all the way up the mountain. Yeah, I see bullets flying from the top there. You know what? I'm just gonna say, fuck
Optics here.
the select fire. Gonna commit to the flat line.
Yeah, it's gonna be a quick game anyway. Oh, they just threw a zip line coming down. You see that?
I see them. Somebody just dropped off. I
Somebody
think.
zipping down.
Find it over there. Hostile over there.
Oh yeah, there's multiple of them. At least 2. The other one ran down the hill. You hear? Oh fuck. Oh, yeah, third there. There's the other guy. Damn it.
Alright, we be ready, Zero.
No, that wasn't too bad. Put some work in.
Put hard work in just to get my quirk fix. Window at a tall bus. Fire. Okay. Sound like the game was starting and then you guys unreadied. And I'm just like, I got left.
Yeah, we all
Yeah,
ran, though,
it
right?
brought me in late. But Not a game, it's not a dance.
This match is gonna be extra. We got extravagant. That's the word.
The window with the tour bus. Yep.
Let's start off with a shit.
Flagship over there.
You see where it's going. It's going right to where we are now. Underneath this, pretty much. I would say, yeah,
Leader,
it's
that's
cutting
me.
far.
Or not, whatever. I mean, as long as we win.
What the fuck? Why am I? As soon as I came out of the ship, I did a little dip, and I was doing like a 1.5.
Yeah, same here. As soon as I broke off, I'm like, shit, like, I don't know if I'm going fast enough to make this.
Oh no!
Yeah, I got this.
Oh my god, I really might not make it. What the fuck? Holy shit.
Shot. Fuck. No gun.
Watch out! That's a grenade.
Actually, I'm gonna drop this alternator for it. Oh shit, Zero's not up here.
Got you, bitch.
Wait, what
Oh,
happened? Oh, you're
I
not
thought you
here,
were going to
Zero?
the. I thought you
No,
were
I
going
went
to
to
the
the ship.
field.
Alright.
What? No, we said just ship. That's what
Oh,
it's saying.
shit.
Alright. You got everything up top? Are you ready to go?
I'm getting out of here.
Alright.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I downed somebody, but I'm not gonna. Get
We're
killed.
on this way. Somebody's shooting at that bird to our right, Grim.
Yeah, I just seated it. I'll hit some of these buildings real quick, try to find some bullets or something. A shirt. Give me a shirty shirt. Oh, somebody's ran through here.
R301 here.
Okay, I got light bullets too. I grabbed the light bullets by it so an enemy wouldn't get it. But I got. There's a stack of light.
Light ammo here.
I can drop more light if,
Oh shit!
from where?
Shit.
Getting
Where
shot
they
in the
at? Where
back.
they at?
Is there a
No.
vest in here?
New kill leader.
I don't know.
Light ammo here.
Yeah. Here's a shield battery.
Oh shit! Someone's coming right here.
Shirt right here.
Body shield here. Level 2.
That's sweet.
Heavy ammo.
Okay.
8 here.
Heavy. I have 14 heavy bullets. I can give you some light, Zero. I have an okay
I
amount
don't
now.
need light.
You need light bullets?
No.
Yeah.
There was a Gibraltar shield up there on that hill. They're sniping from there. And they're sniping from
saw
the
that.
tower.
We should conduct a search right
Oh
here.
shit.
Here, I'll throw us
So-
a zip to that hill. We don't have to take
Yeah,
it. but I'm
let's
ready if you
do
want.
You
that.
go behind them? That sounds good.
Time to gift.
Yeah, they're right below in the street.
Oh man, I jumped off actually, but I'm burning the shit out of them over there.
Shit. Behind that building.
Yeah, they're on that roof right there. Shit, I don't have any heals for this gold vest.
Got that. Oh, I got the one of them, Grim, but there's another one.
Yeah, I'm coming in here. I can't come in because of your thing. You blocked me.
Oh,
No, I
I'm
came
down.
in
I'm
the other
down.
way.
From
Oh, I
the
thought that was your gas guy.
No, yeah, there's another gas guy out there.
We were both able to crawl in here.
Oh, yeah.
I'll block this door. Zero, can you block the other door? Are you back here?
Oh, he's here. Oh, there's a grenade.
We're
There's
good.
a
Just
grenade.
close the door if you can. Is it in? Oh, it's in here. Fuck. God. He's right here.
Oh, it took so long for that Havoc to wind up. I should have had the 301 out.
Oh shit.
Or I should have pre-fired. I don't know. Should have done something besides what I did.
guy was shielding up, but then I believe he's gonna get blown up with that grenade in there. Ready, Joe?
What? Who want what? Who want what? Who want what?
Who want what?
Train gorillas with masks on, sniffing on bath salts.
Yeah.
And then my shooters hop out of Ubers with
I got that
bazookas.
summer
They don't
come.
miss.
This match is gonna be extravagant. Extravagant.
3 choppers doing surgery on bodies like 8 doctors.
I enjoy many things, but death is what inspires.
Who want what? Who want what? Who want what? Who want what? Who want what?
Alright, where you wanna go?
I guess market. I don't know. Market?
Where?
Yeah.
Market?
I don't think it blew Skull Town.
I heard like power plant or something.
No, definitely.
Like where?
I said, I don't know. I guess market. I don't know. Power plant. Sure thing.
Power plant?
Yeah, I can definitely use that ammo.
There's a backpack in that waypoint I marked.
I think I'm hearing somebody. I just shut here. Maybe it was just you. I was right here there.
Yeah, I think it was.
Better get that med kit now. I'll grab it. Wingman.
Yeah, I had the wingman, but then I realized
You don't take that. I got get rid of energy. I got havoc. Oh yeah, somebody's getting brought back in Skull Town.
how do you want to just push that?
You guys want to go there
Or do you
next?
want to keep looting?
What? What you saying?
yeah,
Got
Skull
brought back?
In Skull Town, yeah. Anybody need light ammo?
Yeah, I got 90.
Mag.
A lot.
Could use
Anybody need some?
some.
Yeah, I can give you some. I have 256. There's another 99 here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try to run with the scout, slow my shots down.
Here's a stack.
Thank you. I don't have a bag yet either.
I dropped one in this building.
Okay. Alright. Oh,
You want to push them over this hill next to where we're at, or down?
yeah, I think this is as good as anywhere.
Go and check it out. See what's up. see them there. In the middle.
Alright.
They just ran to the right past that shit.
Yeah, they're in these buildings.
Oh yeah, I hear them.
Oh, they're on the roof.
Yeah, they're probably.
Also
yep, I
going
see
up
them.
to that roof.
And they see me. They're still burning to get me, but missed. The Bangalore's got purple armor.
Caustics on this side here. I think he climbed on the roof actually.
Bane coming in here. Yeah, there's a caustic on the roof. I'm hitting him. He's going to jump down.
Ooh,
Where'd she go?
I've got a frag. He's in this building.
Caustic's in here. I was on fire.
God damn it. Reload, you piece of shit.
Bang's
Got
right
you,
there.
bitch.
Bang's being shot at from behind too.
Oh, another squad. Oh, I got a knockdown.
yeah, I'm-
That shit I did.
I'm com-
He's over there.
trying to do a med
Back
kit.
over there.
Oh shit. Yeah, you're right in here.
And there's a Birdman
Where those
coming
gas
too.
traps were.
Just got posed. There's the Bang. Oh no, it's a Mirage. There's a Birdman somewhere too. I sold.
But don't worry.
Somebody else right in there.
Someone's got to take out the new kill leader. They're too cocky.
I'll get you. Shit. Here he comes.
He's running in the field.
That must just have been the last one. Just relax. I got everything under control. I'm the kill leader. How about that?
Oh my god, it's coming. Oh man.
Yeah, that was pretty intense shit right there.
Yes.
Yeah, that was some intensity. Just too many people, one after another. I should have had that Gibraltar. I mean, I was messed up, but I feel like I was very close to having him killed. If I would have switched to my other gun instead of reloading, I would have had it. But I messed up. I forget to do that a lot.
Okay, friends. Kicks in my DMs. Alexa, turn it down.
Alexa, you listening to me?
Alexa, you bitch!
Alexa,
What's that, like some
Give
girl
me
you
a
pay to change
blowy.
your stations?
I don't know. She just gave me a definition of what a blowy is, but it was too quiet. I couldn't hear it over my headphones.
Sounds pretty
those-
good. I guess you
Yeah.
had your money's worth.
I like you to tell me what the meanings of my terms are. That's what I'm paying you.
Those Eastern
Well,
European.
The way you
Workers
said it doesn't
weren't
have to
cheap.
be interpreted that way. Said she's giving me the definition of a blowy.
Oh.
Oh no, behind us in the wall.
Come get this purple shield, bro.
Uh,
Oh, there's somebody else.
I got
Oh,
it.
that's
That's not
Yeah,
cool.
whole team maybe.
I don't know if I can take them all out with the sentinel I just found. We just found a wingman, some bullets. That might do it.
Okay, next ring's not close and I don't have backup. I better move.
One throwable. Yay.
That's all that was in that building, was a wingman and a sentinel.
You bitch. Oh, somebody was
Yeah,
in
they
my
zipped
building?
above you when you first came out of the door.
I heard it just as I fired my first shot, but I didn't think they can get down there fast enough.
I actually saw them when you were peeking out the door. Saw them go across. This Thick Boy Thursday is a bit rough. I think I might need to switch it to Slim Chick Saturday or something.
Who's in
Yeah,
Caustic?
Caustic and Gibby, it's not working out for me.
It's you and me, brother.
I'll play a game
True killer.
as a thick boy.
Is the new character supposed to come out as soon as this season ends? Or?
Yeah,
What's the
May
new season?
12th, I
Yeah.
think, is the start of it.
I think I saw something today, like 5 more days. Yeah, that'd
Yep.
be the math. Yep.
Math me good.
Me math good. You math head?
Doing all the math. You can't stop me.
Death. I suspect we will find
I'm
something.
losing my teeth from all this math I'm doing.
Just freaking out to make people think that we're going where they're going. Like, oh man, there's so many
Psychops.
people coming here. You just got played, bro.
People are definitely landing here though. Got an alternator. And a throwable.
Shark.
Level 1.
And a shirt. And a 2 to 4.
Attention. First blood.
Damn, dude, is there no armor anywhere except except there? What the
Yeah,
fuck?
no, this be
Fine,
no good.
This building is barren.
Round 1.
Fuck, there's sharks. Sharks here, mine.
Oh, peacekeeper.
We'll see if I can find one of these other side buildings real quick.
Oh.
Stabilizer here. Level 1.
I think somebody's coming up these steps or something.
Okay.
I'd rather find a different gun before I engage. Or, oh, you're already over here. Fuck. There we go. At least
Okay, I'm running.
upgraded my Mosaic
towards you.
League. Oh yeah, they might be shooting us. They're using what's it? The one we put the batteries in, make it
Sentinel.
stronger. Sentinel.
Oh, I just like knocked my headset off.
Yeah, what are they down below?
I'm hearing it from over here somewhere. I don't know where the fuck it is though.
Placing gas trap.
Heavy ammo here.
I need a bag also.
You want to go down in the
Yeah,
mud
we can do
area?
Nobody saw a bag, right?
I don't have a bag either.
No, I don't. No, I don't have a bag either. Oh, here's a purple sniper mag if anybody wants it.
Extended heavy mag here. Level 3. Extended heavy mag here. Level 2.
I can use that.
Let me
take
take that
that
level
heavy
2
mag.
for later. I'm not getting the purple one.
Optics here. Mid-range.
Yeah, I also only have 60 light bullets.
Damn, no bag down here. There's the 3 axis. You guys want that?
They must not be very good.
Yeah, I'm low on everything, man. I feel like I didn't find shit.
You
There you
have
go,
it.
you
Nah,
see
I
that
don't
shot?
got anything to put it on. You want to go into the mud?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Somebody just came out of the Wraith portal in the sky. Looks like they're flying away from us, so that's good.
Not much time. Rings
A
far.
purple shotgun bolt, I'll take it.
I could use a bolt if I
Are you
want.
running shotgun also?
Besides that. Oh, somebody's been here. Yeah, Eva.
Shotgun, heavy ammo here. That's mine. Gotta hop up here.
Can't find a fucking bag or a rifle anywhere.
Completely empty here.
I think I pinged the blue one, I don't,
Level 1.
but I pinged the white one also.
Yeah. Yeah, divs that.
Do you want L-Star, Joe, or either of it? There it is.
Grenade here. Heavy ammo here.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it looks like that building's looted. That building's looted.
Heavy ammo here.
Oh, so the ring is starting to come
I can't
in.
believe there's no bags or.
There's a Havoc and energy ammo.
Yeah, there's an L-Star back there. I don't know. I have a blue light mag, so I kind of want to use my light gun.
Finally found
There's
a
a
great
bag
bag.
right here. Who was in here? There's one right here.
I don't know.
I get kind
might
of
have-
confused as to the
yeah.
buildings I've been to on
It might
here.
have been me. I don't know. Oh, I also need this. There's a purple.
Shotgun bolt here. Level 3.
Oh, sweet. I could use a prowler.
Yeah. So
See one.
Okay.
That'd
Ooh,
be
there's a
so
bag here.
well. Well, don't look for these people because everything's like looted.
Yeah.
Wait, what
maybe
the
get
fuck?
some.
Is this new? I don't remember this. Look where I am. There's this fucking bendy tree that goes up here. I don't ever
Oh, that
remember
might be
seeing that
new.
before.
I don't know if I've ever been there. I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know. Your symbol's too big on the map for me to tell.
Oh, shit. Alright, servers here is pretty looted up. So I see a blue
Yeah.
shit.
Well, this door was open here,
The
but
purple
there
shotgun
was,
bolt.
Storm. You have room? Are you near that purple bolt? I gotta go get the shit.
I'm
and I think I
like
hear the
2
storm
buildings
coming in.
away from it. I'll see if I can find it. If I can run back for it.
Yeah, I can drop a grenade for it. Oh, what the fuck happened to it? Oh, there it is. I got it.
Sweet. Alright, there is a balloon here, or we just run right in.
Oh, okay.
Balloon's over here. There's a zip line.
Did you grab that purple
yeah.
bolt too?
That zip line up in the.
Okay.
Yes.
Blind here. Placing gas trap. The champion was Wade. Gas trap deployed.
Using grapple.
Yeah, if you hit those series of zip lines, that's probably the quickest
Yeah.
route to the. Shit. Ooh, I'm not really seeing an ending in sight. Let's see where we gotta go. Ah, not too much further. To the cage, basically. I'm still running around with a scout. which I really
Watch
don't
out for the
like.
new kill leader.
Fuck, I was facing the wrong way when I started. I thought. God damn it.
Oh, it stopped? No,
Yeah.
never mind. It's still moving. I just can't even see it. It's so far away now.
Oh, lucky you. Rubbing it in.
Oh, here's the bolt.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Shotgun bolt here. Level 3.
Here's a bag.
Yeah, I actually found one running through
Oh, see, you got him now. Okay.
that shite.
Extended light mag here. Wingman here. One.
I really need like a hemlock
right
or a scout.
Let's check out this way.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Passed it, yeah, but I didn't ping it because I didn't know, man.
I'm dropping a blue light mag.
Yeah, I can use that.
I'm going to get these heavy
I got it. I'm right here.
ammos. All right. Yo, where's that shit popping?
Spotted one. Distant.
That direction. Yeah, right through that gap.
Oh, damn.
Optics here. Close range.
All right, I'm behind you, but I'm heading towards you, Grimp.
Grappling.
Yeah, it's like right in
Alright,
here.
I'm like 100 feet behind you. I got
with
my
you.
ultimate.
Oh yeah, he's jumping over. He's up on top of that rock.
Oh, right there. Trying to fence off. There's people to our right in the gap, so be careful. That guy's down on top of the
Shit.
thing.
Yeah, back up. I got the one from the rock.
Okay,
I got
alright,
the one
cool.
from the rock. Okay. He's behind that rock.
Throwables, throwables. No throwables, fuck. They're getting somebody out.
Throw it out.
Oh, there's another squad up there.
There's
Another
double.
dude coming. Two
Yeah,
more
another
dudes.
squad.
Two more dudes.
Is that behind us?
Yeah, I'm
front.
shielding
No,
up.
up here in front. In front. Ooh, tearing them up.
Broke somebody's shield.
Floor up from the floor up, kid.
And I am. Fuck.
Oh shit! I've hurt the other one real bad. I'm down.
Broke his shield again.
I can't use my abilities.
Where is he? I got one. There's one left, Jeff. Did he heal
Yeah,
up or get
she's the last one alive.
well, she might be hurt. I don't know really what's going
She's a
on.
medic. She's
She's
getting her
getting
buddy
somebody
up.
up
She's getting her
now.
buddy up.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's
There you
up
go.
up.
Back up.
Fuck, man.
She had to have almost been dead.
I hope I didn't cause that by throwing my shield
No,
up.
no.
I should have healed all the way. I just heard she's real hurt, so only ran 75 health.
Yeah, I was shielding up, and then
Yeah.
I stopped because she was getting somebody out. But had I had full shields, I probably would have won that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
That was a crazy little fight in that little alleyway.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I enjoy many things, but death is what inspires.
This is my favorite part.
Depending on how well this game goes, maybe we should switch to ranked, so I could try to get into gold before the season's over.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Because I got all of the I got the battle pass done, so I think
All the way to
at least the
110?
100. I got the first flatline skin, which is really all I'm
Yeah.
concerned about. I might have it to 110. I don't know. But
Probably.
This might be a
I'm far enough in the battle pass that I have the money and the one skin that I can work with. So if I can get to gold 4 before the season's over, I mean, then I won't be behind come season 5.
Here we go! Hang tight!
Drop here.
Alright, I'm gonna hit crop circle.
Let's go here.
I'm gonna hit crop
Placing an independent variable.
You see anybody at all?
No, I hear it behind us.
Wingman here.
Oh, I see you've got a shield.
We might be here alone. I don't know. Across the way.
Yeah, I think
Across the
so.
way is not do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
head
I'm
over there.
behind
Because once again, I need your donations for my give me a rifle campaign. Here's a purple sniper rifle.
Somebody needs a helmet. There's a helmet.
Body shield here. Never mind. Helmet here. Level 1.
Guess I'll take those
Champion just
throwers.
Level 2.
Hey, I'm dropping this 301. 301 with a blue
I'll
clip.
definitely use them.
Oops, I
Blue
didn't
clip.
take the light.
Extended light mag here. Level 1.
You want that 301, Grim?
Yeah, I could use it.
In that far away plane.
I'm gonna drop this eliminator for this 45.
In the drop shit. Okay, I'm gonna drop this Evo for this blue. Oh, that's a blue Evo? No, it's not. No, you know what? I'm gonna try that Evo. Here's another blue armor gel.
Body shield here. Level 2.
Dibs.
Another one. I thought that was
I mean,
the only one I saw. Yeah.
I took not another one. I picked it up, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna try the Evo.
Oh, okay.
The ring is distant.
Someone's getting brought back.
SMG here.
That's far away. That's a little ways.
I'm locking a flat line up top.
Yeah, I got a Spitfire. I don't know, the Spitfire shoots slow and sucks up close.
Some light and heavy in this room, in the
I
closet.
got 100 heavy if you need that.
Where's the heaven?
I've got 138. I'm good.
Oh, here. Who wants 2 syringes?
I'm
I
good
don't
on
have any
heals.
syringes. I have a med kit, but no syringes.
Oh, I think that was a 99. It's going to switch to 99 so I could use the optic.
Do you
but it
have the
wasn't a
syringes, or were
99.
they in there? I didn't see them.
They're right here, Joe.
Oh, I dropped them
okay.
right where we were. Yeah, I thought you guys were right there. Oh shit, the wall's coming in. We kind of have to go pretty far.
Alright, then let's.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a big
There's a
garage.
balloon back towards that little
Yeah.
town.
There's a jump tower.
I'm
Okay.
gonna heading to that.
Yeah, me too.
There might be people right here, though. I heard some
Care package.
shit popping off. Could have been further, I don't know. I mean, doors are open here.
Yeah, I hear people shooting by over there-ish.
Alright. I'm coming back.
Oh, are
No,
you
I'm
guys
coming back.
wanting? You guys not
I'm
wanting
com-
to
I'm
take
coming back.
the blue?
Wait, what?
No, we are right.
What do you want
no,
to do then?
I just got on it and you guys were recalling it or whatever. I didn't know. What
I
was
just
up.
wanted to make sure I didn't get a shot in the back.
Oh, no, I was just looking on the way out. That's all. Just looted over there.
First one's here. Placing an independent variable. Gas trap deployed.
Oh, yep.
Uh,
After
enemies.
respawn.
At the revive spot.
Oh, shit.
Throwing thermite grenade. Thermite out. Frag out.
One down.
Oh,
cave?
someone in the cave. Hold on the squad. Hold on the squad. Fuck, he's hitting good.
Taking fire, brothers.
Alright, well, they're fighting those other people that are running ahead.
Reloading.
They're throwing an
Yeah.
airstrike.
Oh, that airstrike fucked me up. I'm dropping my shield if you guys need it. I need to shield up.
Charging shields.
They're retreating into the. Oh goddamn! I think they've only got one person up. They might have two. They
Alright,
might have
crawl in
two.
here. Crawl in here.
But they're
Crawl
crawlers
in
all
oh,
in the
shit, my
cave.
shield's gone now. Alright, I'm gonna get 0 up.
You might want to go attack.
Ah, they're getting somebody up. I got. Now they're getting them up again. I downed them and fucked them up. Oh, that's somebody
Oh
else
god! Now there's
coming.
somebody coming from outside.
Yeah,
Get the
lifeline's down.
lifeline or no?
Somebody's attacking here.
Damn!
No, that's a crawler. Oh, too many motherfuckers.
I was chasing this dude because he just got
Yes,
up.
that was
and
3
he fucking turned
squads.
around and
It was 3
shot me in the
squads.
fucking face.
That wasn't
Two
very nice.
motherfuckers.
Oh, I thought it was a Gibraltar, but it was a Bangalore. She had a gold shield, so I would not have chased her if I knew that. That sucks. I didn't land any shots, so I had no idea, but she probably was shielded up before I caught up with her.
Nah, she just got up. That lifeline just got her up. I downed the Bangalore with the gold shield. Then the lifeline got her up, and then I downed her again, and then shot the lifeline, and then
Right.
she got her up again. So then you downed the lifeline at the end, and the
Yeah.
Bangalore got away.
I downed the lifeline and I chased the Bangalore,
They were like,
but Bangalore got up and ran
Then
away.
Maybe she had a gold backpack or something.
Yeah, Bangalore got up and ran away. So when I was fighting the lifeline, the Bangalore was running. I downed the lifeline. Then when I chased her, by the time I caught up to her, she could have had. She had a full shield when I just spectated, so she could have had a full shield when I was chasing her. I mean, by the time I got.
I find death fascinating.
Nah.
So, if I would have landed a shot on her before that, I wouldn't have chased her. Yeah, if I would have been.
I cannot wait to win this match, friend.
Well, I guess she wouldn't have had a gold shield, so I don't know. I have no idea.
Introducing your champion.
Here we go. I'm the jump master.
I don't know. You want to do a blue containment, or you want to do slum lakes, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, it's
Whatever.
the blue shit.
All right. Hope you're
Where do you want to land on?
I don't know.
Oh no, I came too close and hit it.
Oh shit.
I guess I'll
right
land
here.
here.
Alright, we should land close, then I'll land.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Well,
land in the
I'll
middle.
land on this
close.
side of
yeah,
the
it's
big one.
blue, so we should.
Open the box. Open the box.
What's in the box?
Here's the prowler.
Yeah, I just picked one up. Jumping off and going to the lower.
There's a bunch of motherfuckers around here. You seen them?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I see one over at the bird cage.
I'll just drop the hemlock there.
Oh, there's one up top where we landed.
Oh shit, is there? Alright, let me.
At least one. I hear them stamping around up here somewhere.
I will be coming up.
Right there.
Did he just run in?
I'm coming up.
I'm right
Yeah.
behind Greg.
Pretty sure he just ran in.
We got ourselves.
Nice.
Get fucked.
Get rolled, big boy.
Yeah, I need light ammos. Somebody else
There's
is
a
coming. You
9-0.
hear him, right?
Yep.
Start that door.
He just, yep. Oh, that's not our goddamn gas? Motherfucker. Oh shit, I got no help. I'm running to the other side of the building. Fuck, there's no there he is. He's
Yep,
probably on
inside.
the
Caustic
roof.
is inside.
Caustic is down.
One left.
Right here, I got a med kit for you.
Just want to shirt real quick.
Medkit here.
Somebody else is
No, I
coming. Hear
don't.
him?
I see them.
I'm here. Here he is.
Damn. I didn't even land a
Yeah,
single
bitch.
shot in that.
Oh, I was like running through your body, so I
Get
didn't even
smoked.
I couldn't see anything. All I could see was like the inside walls of your chest.
Alright, so I guess I'm gonna run.
Oh, Zero, do you have health? There's a med kit if you need it.
It's a long way.
And there's a
I
shirt in
don't.
here.
Okay, thank you.
There.
We should go here.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which one's got?
I,
Okay.
di- I just pinged the med kit, yeah.
The ring isn't very close. I am repairing myself.
I might switch to a sniper. I don't know. Not a charger.
30 seconds.
Definitely not a charger.
Man, that Spitfire was doing work, but I think I need the hemlock.
I think this place is empty now.
Oh, did you loot all those buildings down there?
Everywhere I go, it's just nothing.
Rings close.
Yeah, it looks
Oh,
pretty
anybody?
empty.
But didn't somebody say there was like a prowler earlier or something?
Yeah,
Still
Yeah,
around?
it's,
yeah, right out here.
Up top somewhere here.
Prowler SMG here. New kill leader. Heads up.
Shall we?
Dying outside the ring would be.
I don't have enough light ammo for
I-
this.
I hear some. Oh no, that's Grim.
And I gotta swap out my light gun to do
How much you have?
29 besides what's in my clip. So I'm gonna grab the. I have energy, so I'm gonna grab a energy gun I saw
I
somewhere.
can give you some.
That's cool.
Joe, yeah,
Yeah,
what kind
I'll
of
give you
ammo?
some.
No, I'm good. I'm dropping what I had there.
Light ammo
I'm
here.
running energy and heavy. I don't have a lot of heavy either. But I have enough energy to make this work.
Yeah, I'm very low on heavy, but I got plenty of light right now. And I got 301, so I'm good on it.
Alright, where do we want to go now? Oh, you gotta go this way for the wall.
Alright.
Suspect we will find something here.
We got some of that shit, and then there's a balloon in the river we could
Sure.
use.
Yeah, it'll work.
Blue shirt in here.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Light ammo here. Backpack here. Level 1.
Oh, never mind. We all got that on us.
Shield cell here.
Couple of shield cells there.
I've got 4. I'm okay for now. Or 4 and 1 big.
Yeah, I'll take him. I got 2.
Oh, I need that heavy definitely. Now I got 60 heavy, 65 heavy.
I got 60.
Of what
Heavy.
energy?
But I got 210 energy, so I'm okay.
Okay.
I got
65 heavies at
Yep.
energy.
Oh, yeah,
you're
the
all
balloon. Oh, we're gonna do that?
Time.
Okay.
I've got 69 heavy rounds. I don't want to shoot any.
Keep them forever.
Just
Unless
collect
it's
them.
just
Yeah, this
one
is on
tap
touch.
and then it's 68 and I'll owe you one.
Optics here. Shield cell here.
Oh, fuck yeah, I'll take that 2x. Me like the 2x.
Extended light mag here. Level 1.
Evo shield if anybody wants to screw with that.
Shit, yeah, mine as well. I'm not finding another shield, so maybe I can build my own shield. DIY shield kit.
Gas trap deployed.
Yeah, people have been here for sure. Doors all open and shit.
Alright, I'm gonna zip across. Across with a T. Oh, more energy. I'll take it. Bernie stick.
Extended heavy mag here. Level
Thermite
1.
grenade here.
I have a prowler. Should I swap to a wingman? Because I have low bullets. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say.
Oh, somebody's
Syringe here.
Oh shit,
Whoa,
who's
who's that?
Somebody popping.
sniper shots.
Sounded like it was toward the...
Enemy spotted.
There's at least 2 of them in front
Oh
of
yeah,
that
they're
shit,
going in the bunker, yeah.
They're going to have to get out of it, though. Wanna push this house real quick? Can I hit this
Okay.
rope? I don't know.
Oh shit. They're coming toward the house.
Oh shit, I thought that would be in the out of the thing. I went.
I
Took
broke the
other
shield
one.
on one of them.
Ping them.
They're on
back
the other
on this
side of
side
this
near me.
house.
Recharging shields.
Oh shit, they're down here.
Are you in the house?
Yep, yep, they're down here. Yeah, the other one ran
Oh, shit.
outside.
I hit the other dude with an arc charge. That was
Yeah,
dead.
Birdman down.
Where's he at?
Where's the other guy?
He's shielding up with a big
Okay,
shield.
He
Ah,
just
shit,
closed
he's
that
grenade
door. He
down
just
here.
closed that
Oh.
door.
Fuck! Get up there.
Oh fuck. He's
Yeah.
upstairs. Oh, he's on. He dropped down. Dropped down.
Fuck! I fell off the fucking thing.
He's going upstairs. No.
Oh, how did that not kill him?
Oh no! Good try. Good try. That was yeah. He was. I'm sure he was almost dead.
Looks like you're hitting all those shots.
Yeah, it looks like it's fucking him up. I don't.
Yeah,
Probably
actually
had
hit
purple
him,
armor or something.
hit his body with an arc star.
Oh shit! He must have healed.
was- yeah.
Oh, well, I know
Yeah,
he
he
healed
did a
for,
big shield,
Well,
like,
one of them healed
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched.
Yeah, I couldn't
I'll
get
be
up
right
there
back.
quick enough.
Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
I'ma do me. My team. Ups and the downs. I'ma do me. Yo. Yo, wait a second.
Wait
I'm back.
Wait a motherfucking minute.
Oh, didn't you say you want to play that rank?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do the rank stuff. Do the rank stuff. Do. When Grim comes in, you can switch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was talking to you the whole time since I was back,
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, no, I
You
could
hear
hear
me?
you, but you went out to smoke, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
so when you
you.
come in, you can switch it. No big deal, no rush. You do you.
Yeah.
We go. All right, now we'll be right back, fellows. I think.
All right.
I'll be right back, fellows.
I can win this thing with one eye closed, or both eyes closed. Hell, I don't even have to show up. We will defeat all of our enemies.
Let's go get the job done.
Introducing your
How do we do that? Shit.
I thought we could land here.
Alright, I'm here. I'm ready. I'm going. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do the stuff.
Don't, whatever. As long as
I'm ready. Let's rock and roll. Let's kill all the motherfucking faces off. Let's kill the faces off. Alright.
The fuck to get in? Oh, there's the door over the back.
Oh, people landed here. No gun.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah, we're split up.
Shite.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
only
there's somebody
found
up there
one so far. So.
Fudging me up.
Oh shit, I'm coming.
Oh, god damn it.
Oh shit, he's fudging me up too.
There's a flatline here.
God damn it. God damn it.
Yay!
Rock a fucking
I
shit.
got dunnage.
Dude's got a Eva.
Does his have a purple bolt?
It's shooting
No,
fast.
mine does. Oh wow, yeah, that wasn't cool. Oh, I thought it was so caustic. Yeah, they were all there. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, he was pretty
Yeah.
fucking deadly with that shotgun.
Surgical with this bitch, Jake. Yay, negative 12 points. I like it. I love it.
All right, negative 24 for me. I'm loving it even more than you're loving yours. Oh yeah.
I thought you guys were gold 4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gold
but
takes
we're not
24.
baseline.
Silver takes 12.
You guys aren't at the bottom of it. Okay, I see.
Nah,
No, but we started
up
from
like
the bottom.
a couple
now we're
hundred
here.
points. Whole team something something. I started at the bottom from rich Jewish parents and Canadian address, being a movie star. Now I've worked my way all the way up to here from that low ass bottom.
Where's parents, Rich?
Yeah, one of them. I think.
I didn't even know the guy was saying that was
Yeah,
Drake.
it's Drake.
The other one was living there.
What's the name of the guy?
Drake. Pretty sure.
I'll say
Drake,
it again.
you don't know who
Pretty sure
Drake
they
is?
grew up
Oh, Drake. Drake.
at the minimum, middle upper class. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have a rough fucking childhood for sure.
This is your champion.
If that's the bottom to him, then I don't know. I must think everybody else is like dead.
Like I'm the jump master.
I'm giving this up.
This is awesome. I'm the jump master.
Let's do a little relay.
I say we land here.
You guys want to land on the closer side of it, just for a little change?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't care.
Yeah. Sure.
I say we land here. Heard that.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I don't know if that's in the water.
Are you
where
speaking
I'm
in
already-
Yeah, he
code?
wants to land in the waterfall.
Oh, okay.
He wants to get its parts all rusted.
How about this way?
Rusted and disgusted.
First blood.
He wants to be a rusted nut bucket.
Is that even a building? Yeah, that is a building. Sweet.
Body shield here.
Round one.
Level 1.
Beginning ring countdown.
Body shield here. Level 1.
God, where are all the guns? Not a single gun in this house.
RE-45 here.
I
Shotgun
got
bolt here.
It can drop a sentinel
I'll
for you.
take it.
My second gun.
I'll take this RE-45
Alright.
and his bolt.
Got a sentinel here.
Yeah, I actually
Sentinel.
have.
Also a longbow right outside. If
Yeah,
that's your...
longbow works just as well.
You and anybody else?
No.
Around here.
I haven't yet.
There you go. There's a
Oh,
301
yeah,
here.
yeah, I could definitely use that.
With choke next to it too.
Are there any ammos with it? Because I don't have any ammos.
Shotgun bolt here. Level 1.
I dropped it right next to it. Yeah.
Cool. No, you didn't drop ammo next to 301. What?
Level 1.
100%. I dropped 16. Sniper. Oh, you
Yeah.
mean for the 301?
100% I did stuff that you're not talking
yeah.
about.
Body shield here. Level 1.
Yeah, I took those bullets. I didn't think they'd have none. Here's
Just one box.
half what I got.
Thank you.
That's fine. Keep it. Once I get a heavy gun, I'll be dropping this havoc and an energy ammo. That floats your boat.
Oh, there's somebody ammo.
That's some champion, huh? Body shield here.
You guys are. You need a shirt, bro.
Oh, thanks. I'm dropping a prowler with a blue mag.
Ammo here.
I think it's a blue mag.
You got a.
Here. Ammo.
Oh, is that a wingman?
Shotgun bolt here. Level 1.
Fuck am I full of? That shit.
Oh,
So you dropped the trailer already? You're saying? Oh,
Yeah,
fine.
pings.
Yeah,
It's
Heavy ammo.
even better.
it's here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm dropping all this. I already dropped the energy. My bad.
yeah, I'm gonna run.
Well, there's a blue heavy mag.
Yeah, I have one. I was the one that pinged that second blue one.
You want
Now
it,
I'm
Joe?
running light and sniper.
Alrighty then.
But I got room for, so I might as well carry it. Maybe some shit will happen.
Sniper stock here.
Ooh, I can use that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That tickles my fancy. My fancy is so tickled.
Easy.
Ooh, ticklish fancy. Ticklish fancy.
Ring's moving, brother. Keep the hustle.
Keep the hustle. I'm gonna go right to the next building.
Extended light mag here. Level 3.
R301 here.
Another 301.
Helmet here. Level 2.
Then I get that battery. Here's 2 little cells.
Shield cell here.
Joe, you had kind of shitty armor last
No,
game.
no,
Let
no,
me,
no. Don't even think about
let you
it.
try
Don't
this
even think about it.
purple out.
Don't even think about it.
Alright, alright.
He's saying you need it because you'll die without it.
Extended heavy mag here.
I know that's what he's saying. There's a purple heavy clip. You guys saw that ping?
Yeah, I just dibs it. I can definitely use that shit.
99 if anybody's into that funky shit.
I'm gonna stick with 301s. Are there any sights? I have one on my longbow. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got too. I think I'm liking the 301 better most of the time.
Oh, yeah. I really need heavy.
Actually,
Yo, that wasn't behind us, was it? That
no,
fire?
I think it was
Surely not.
up the next area
It's-
over
Alright.
the wetlands. I think.
Let's go here.
Yeah, whichever way you guys want to go.
Oh, there's a care package right there.
Let's check out this way.
Okay.
Forget
So,
over there.
See, Karma 0. There's gonna be a gold vest in here for my fat ass.
not if I get it first.
Someone's gotta check out the new kill leader. They're too cocky.
Oh, a Kraber.
Oh, I got it. I got all the stuff. I got all
Actually, I
the...
got 2 medkits, good. I should have taken that 99 for
Alright,
that
yeah, I can
shit.
use that. Thank you.
Optics here. Close range.
Yo, this
Oh,
is just
man.
right
Shit,
up
it's
here
going
somewhere.
down. Yeah. Fuck, man.
Oh yeah, it's right
This
over
is
here. Right over here.
exciting. This is exciting. It's like fireworks. Alright, so there's people in the grass over there, and down there, and on the other side over there.
Alright.
So I would say let them fuck each other up. And they'd be like, oh, you need some help?
I just want to throw that
Get
arc star. We just got pulsed.
The Birdman's over there, and he's like aiming his sights at me.
Oh,
wish I had
I'm looking
something
for
that
him.
wasn't a
I
1x.
yeah, I saw him run behind the.
He's behind that log. Do you want to just...
Oh, I see.
wait
What?
for that
Fuck,
bitch?
they keep moving. They're moving
Somebody's
fast.
running away.
Oh, they're running. Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably
Yeah, they
probably
dropped
the
a
fight
raid.
and just move in.
Oh, is that the
Oh,
guys
yeah,
that were on the
there's a
hill?
portal somewhere.
Yeah, they went over there where you pinged or whoever pinged. I'd be afraid to follow them through it. I bet
Yeah,
they're
I
looking.
mean, there's a bunch
But
of
then they
boxes
might
here
come-
begging for us to loot them.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
are they? Oh, they. Oh, well, that's sweet.
You see, we move this way.
Oh,
shit.
Man. Yeah, I thought there was still people here.
Recharging shields.
They'll never shoot through these.
Oh, yeah, ball stick up on top of the hill.
Oh,
Right
they're
here,
like
yep.
fucking there.
Nice.
Oh, how, you motherfucker? There's a dude right here hurt real bad. Gibraltar.
Oh!
Birdman, broke Birdman's shield. I am so almost dead though. I gotta go heal. I threw my ultimate.
Oh, I'm in the gas. I'm in the gas.
Adios, muchachos.
That's me, that's me, that's me.
He's yours.
I had.
Turned into a box.
Oh, man. There's
Okay, I'm
motherfuckers
coming. I'm
here
coming. I'm
already.
coming. I'm shielding up.
Yo, they're
shit.
coming to fuck us up, man. I got zero shit if you want to make
Yeah,
an
it's a-
exit move.
Yeah, they're right there.
Oh shit.
Oh my god. Yeah.
That's the guys that we chased off, I think. Maybe. Oh, we're
Yeah.
not dead. Okay.
Yeah, Grim was able to run.
Almost. I've no trouble. Oh man, did he not see
They
me?
zipped over your head, I think.
No, I used it to save my life.
Yeah, I didn't. I just didn't know. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Dead,
yeah,
yeah.
when I- Oh no, I don't think I caught that. And I'm making all this fucking noise. Alright, I'm gonna go for your banner and quick escape. 'Cause I don't know if I can fight all these dudes without doubles. Oh.
I mean, you have
Sayonara,
40
bitch.
seconds. How long
Oh,
do your ultimates
He's
come
not the
back?
last guy.
You just got pulsed.
Oh,
Oh shit.
well, that's them pulsing me. And that would be missing your
Yeah, they're
shit.
right behind you.
Good shit.
But they won't expect this.
It's like when Ice-T goes back to the cabin and burns it down in the famous movie Surviving the Game.
Let's see, I don't know what you're talking about.
Surviving the game?
Everybody's seen Surviving
what
the
it's called?
Game.
Actually, there's one right down
I thought it
here.
was the
Maybe I'll
most
do that.
dangerous game or
We're gonna be
something.
in the middle of some shit.
That's the name of the book it's
Oh.
based on.
I have a purple heavy clip. Fuck it, I'll just go here.
That's the one where he's the
I
homeless
don't
man,
even look good.
right?
I see closed
And they
bins.
pick him up and they hunt him.
Yeah, and they hunt him, yeah.
And who's in it? Oh, well, that ain't
Ice-T.
cool.
Oh, fuck. They're still on your tail?
Yeah, they're behind you.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? Should've went
I
somewhere
can't
else.
believe they chased you that fucking far.
That was pretty far in the circle. And there was one outside the circle I could have ran to.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have done any good. Apparently, they were fucking
Yeah.
intent on chasing you wherever you
Yeah.
went.
How fast they caught up to me, they had to have been.
Yeah, Birdman
close.
was
Somebody
probably
was like right on my heels.
doing
They
this
probably
tracking shit.
were hiding up top and dropped down. That's probably why none of the bins were touched. They trick you into feeling safe. Alright, I'll be right back.
Actually, hold on. I'm going to... Oh, I can get that legendary thing. I do want that, but that's $18 fucking dollars.
What's 18 bucks?
Excuse me, Octane skin. It's 1,800 gold coins.
Whoa. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
I'm gonna invest in some gold coins because I really want that Bloodhound skin. But I don't know if I should do what's up.
You. What? What
The
skin?
Bloodhound
Which
one,
Bloodhound
the
one?
samurai one.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna buy some coins. But anyway, so they have. I was just telling Zero that in the store they have a good Octane skin, but they want $18 for it, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of freaking money for a cosmetic item.
Yeah.
Oh.
How
I wanna
much was
change
it?
my
20 bucks?
skin.
$18, right?
But I was gonna buy some packs, so I was gonna buy some coins to buy some packs, and I also need 1,000 coins for next season's battle pass.
Oh, so can you not buy it straight out anymore for like $18
No,
or
you.
whatever?
Well, some stuff you can,
You have
like
to get-
whatever is in the store. So currently the featured stuff has the
Oh, okay.
Octane skin, but not the skin that I want. Which is a skin that I want for Octane, but I haven't been playing them a lot, so. So I'm looking at the Apex coins, and I don't know if I should spend the more money to get the extra coins, to buy the extra stuffs.
Wait, so it's $1 for one. Do you get a deal for
Yeah.
quantity?
So
like a
you
bulk
get 1,000
deal?
coins for $9.99. You get 2,000 coins plus 150 coins for $19.99. You get 4,000 coins. Yeah,
That's
so for
20
20
bucks,
bucks you get 2,000 plus a bonus 150.
You get an extra $1.50
Yeah.
for 20.
So you get an
bucks,
extra
okay.
$3.50 for
Basically,
40
right.
bucks. You get an extra $7 for 60 bucks, and you get an extra 15 bucks for 100 bucks.
Oh, but it's still, you have to buy each pack individually. It's not like you can buy like a 10-pack of the bot thing.
Well, no,
for,
I could do. I
you know,
could do.
$7
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
They're the same either way. So I could buy one for 100 or 10 for 1,000. They're the same either way.
Oh, so you don't save any money.
But you,
Okay, you only save
Yeah.
buying the coins. Okay.
so well, you know what? Whatever. I'll think about it because I've played this for whatever over a year. I've played this religiously for since launch. I stream it a couple days a week. The reason my Instagram has as many followers as it does is because of the clips that I've posted to it, which isn't a lot, but nobody cared before I was posting decent clips.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So
I
it's
get
an,
it. I mean, I just spent 60 on the new Resident Evil, which I played and I beat, and don't play anymore. I play this all the time, and I've spent $10 total so far
Right.
in this game.
Yeah, I think I bought 2 battle passes.
yeah, so like this
cool.
game, if I paid full price for this game, if I paid 60, I would have gotten more than my money's worth out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is your champion.
So
Choose our location for bet.
and I mean, who knows if I.
Oh shit, tomorrow's
Yeah.
Friday, right?
So I'll have another paycheck in the mail tomorrow.
Oh, so, yeah, I forgot to tell you. I found out. Remember I told you with unemployment, right? They sent me, like, something. Or no, they sent me the regular shit, but when I called to make my claim, it said some message like, you're under review or something. But it didn't explain why, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody. Turns out the quarters that they count, it goes back out of the last 5 quarters, the 4 before that.
Okay.
So they count, and then your highest quarter can't be more than like 60-something% of the total. Which basically they only count 2 quarters I worked, and one was like I came in the middle. And then here's a 3x. And turns out if I would have filed it 3 days later, then it would have went through. So I got rejected, but I didn't find out. Even the paperwork I got said it was mailed like a month before I got it. So then I had to reapply, so then I should get it from like a month ago. Well, usually from when you apply, but I'll have to fight to get it for like
Why can't I fucking
from
get
when
that
I
shit?
was actually
Right.
eligible.
Got it.
Got it. Yeah, so basically I might be screwed for like 2 months worth, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, when I can finally get a fucking hold of somebody, which is basically
Yeah.
impossible.
I mean, it's crazy. It
Then I
is.
can,
Everything is like we ordered food, and
Yeah.
we ordered from Chili's, and we ordered DoorDash, but like through the Chili's website, and so the dude, somebody accepts it, and they get there and they text me through DoorDash and like, I'm sorry, I accidentally caught it as they're using like lingo that I don't even fucking understand. I accidentally called a pickup, so I'm here waiting for it. Food's not ready yet. So I'm like, okay. I ordered a delivery. I assume they accidentally picked the wrong order up or whatever, and my food's not ready or whatever. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So then they're waiting out front of the restaurant. It says the latest it'll be here is like it'll be here sometime between like 6:10 and 6:25 or something. Well, at like 6:30, I say something to Kim, and she's like, "Well, relax. It's a pandemic. Everything's behind." I'm like, "All right." 7 o'clock, we don't hear anything. 7:25, I text the guy, and they're like, "Oh no, yeah, they just whatever." Like, didn't say anything. So I'm like trying to call the restaurant. The restaurant is busy. It's just like I'm getting a busy signal. There's only one number listed for the restaurant. So I just like basically couldn't talk to anybody about anything.
There's another blue shirt. I pinged a blue shirt.
Yeah, I
before
thought
that,
Zero was
Joe.
gonna pick it up.
Yeah, there's one at the. No,
It's in a bin right around my yard. You see it? Okay, there we go.
I didn't realize you guys were like leaving.
Yeah, well.
There's
wasn't
also a
gone,
med kit over there.
But then I thought I heard people over here, and I was just gonna peep it, and then nobody was here.
So what happened with the
So I wound up like,
delivery?
I'm asking them like, did you talk to them? Like, what's going on?
99.
And then the dude's like, no, I told you that I accidentally hit it for delivery or for pickup. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what does call to pickup mean? I have no idea. And I'm like, can you just cancel it? He's like, no, I can't cancel it because I'm here. You have to go in and cancel it. But if I cancel it, I get charged a fee for canceling.
Oh, and he was trying
Yeah.
to make you do it. you
So
could charge
I
him
was,
for
and
it.
which I get because it's not fair because he sat there for
We have to run crazy far.
he sat there for an hour. I mean, so he wants to get some sort of money from it, which I understand. But like, I'm getting it was like a $75 fucking order. Like I'm just getting fucked here
Why did he sit there for an hour?
because he was just waiting for them to tell him the food was ready, and because he
and they never
no.
fixed it.
So
or?
finally, I can't get in touch with the restaurant.
Delivered.
He's telling he's like, yeah, I just gotta sit here and wait and whatever because like he already said that he picked the food up, so he couldn't like take another
I
thing.
left that trailer.
So he was all pissy, but so it wound up being I got an email from DoorDash saying that Chili's refused service, so I was being refunded my money because they were so busy. So finally, at some point, they gave him a queue before
Oh,
I got
shit.
that email.
Oh, enemies,
Okay.
enemies zipping. Enemies zipping towards the cave.
All right, do we want to push it?
I'm ready when you guys are.
Yeah, we gotta go that way. Oh, they're bringing
Oh,
somebody
they're, wait, they're dropping a care pack. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, they're.
I
Nades.
thought it was Fat Man Scoop. I was trying to throw my ultimate at him.
Broke that
This
dude's
dude's
shield.
dropping by the cave. Oh, he's up here?
Up here.
Attention. The kill leader has been eliminated.
Wait, it said somebody was wounded over here? What? Oh, they're up there?
Oh, that's the guy that just came back. Got him. We'll do a quick execution.
Oh, okay. So there's still somebody. You might be
I
behind
feel
us.
like we're
even.
safe. Oh, right. Yeah, last teammate didn't come.
Yeah, here. No, it's a whole other squad. Whole other fucking squad. God damn. If you got,
Yeah,
they're in the
don't
mouth
have
of the cave.
grenades.
The very mouth. I'm crawling back.
Yeah, I'm fucking dead, man.
I swear we can't play a game where we don't get third party
No.
in this fucking mode.
Level 3.
Why didn't we even? Oh,
Yeah,
Is that
but we
right?
came, it should have been. We came in 8th place, so we should have got points.
Yeah, I got +8.
Yeah, I got 20.
But yeah, so they canceled the order, but like for like hours, I placed the order.
So it worked out in your favor.
Well, I
at the
got my
end,
money
right?
back, but not really. I
I mean,
waited.
money-wise. And you get a penalty. Yeah.
Yeah,
while you're
I
hungry
waited
as shit
2
waiting for
hours.
food for
Yeah,
fucking
and like
hours. Yeah.
he just refused because there were so many orders. So like they were just like, oh, we're not taking any orders, canceled everything, refunded all the money. But like we found that out at like almost 8 o'clock. I put the order in like 5:30 or something. You know what I mean? So like it was just. And like
Yeah,
and
so
when
for
we're
like
calling,
2.5 hours.
the restaurant,
And
it's
then
just
you're
busy.
starting
So
all
it's
over
like
again.
he just took the phone off the hook. Just zero fucking customer services because like every
Wait, so the problem was that they just didn't make it, and
Yeah.
then it's not even like that. Like, all right, we'll make
Yes.
it now. They're just like, sorry, you have
not
to
even
cancel
sorry.
it.
Just
get
I got an
charged.
email saying it was canceled, and I would be refunded the money. And I got that from DoorDash. So like Chili's, I guess just put it in through DoorDash that they're canceling or whatever. Like, which is probably it was probably some manager who was there who didn't think the restaurant should be open, but corporate says that they should be open, and he's there by himself or short staffed, and he's just like, I mean, like I just don't. It's bullshit. I'm not making enough money for this. And so they just like, oh, we're getting swamped. We're just not going to make any orders. Take the phone off the hook, or some shit like that. I was so
Yeah.
mad.
Or they just don't feel like it, or maybe
Yeah,
they're
that's
hoping to
bullshit.
get fired because with unemployment, that's actually a real thing. You get
You
$600
mean you
extra
can-
dollars on top of your unemployment. So if you get yourself fired, you make more money.
But
And
if
if you
no,
keep
if you
working.
get fired,
In
A
Tennessee,
lot
I believe
more.
in Tennessee, you have to be laid
yeah,
off.
if you
to
get
unemployment.
fired
You
for
can't
like
be
if you
fired to get
steal from the
unemployment.
company or
Oh,
something, you
really?
get fired. You don't get
Maybe
unemployment.
we land here.
Like
Maybe we don't.
Well, for something like that.
if you get fired
But,
for not
like,
doing your job, you don't.
I've gotten it.
The best part.
I've gotten fired for just like forgetting my schedule too many times and like in a week and just not 3 no-call no-shows in a row.
Yeah, well, the company
Got
pays
fired for
into
worse
that
stuff than
unemployment.
Yeah, but it probably depends
Right.
if they fight or not. Most people, if they like you, they're not. Even if you fuck up, they're still gonna pay. Not gonna fight it.
Yeah,
Oh, I hear
somebody's
somebody
over here.
else on his
Yep.
back end. Like,
They're in this building.
I guess right
I don't
there.
have a gun yet.
Somebody's coming in that door behind you. Graham.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yep.
In this room.
Yeah,
there's
that's what
somebody
I
in
was
here.
saying.
Got that
Somebody
door.
came in that door over there.
Shirt in here, Joe. Come in here for the shirt.
I'm down.
Oh, I'm down.
I fucked
Grab that
somebody
shirt.
up in.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're down too?
Told you that,
Oh.
bro.
How did you down us both? That
The
last
dude at the
dude's down
door,
both
yeah.
of us? He's almost dead, Zero. There we go.
Shit.
They're at the door, Zero.
Here, I'll lock this other door then.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm
Thank
gonna,
you.
I'm
They're
gonna
coming.
block it. Oh no, he's going towards your door. Keep it close.
You traded. Oh, I got an assisted
bitch.
one for that.
Good shit. Good shit.
So I guess I hit him with like one bullet.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Somebody,
You hit
somebody
him
give
at
me
like
up.
the
Somebody
same
give me
time.
up. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying. I didn't know you
Ah,
were crawling
shit.
around. I was trying to.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right here. Molly, why can't I run past here?
1 sec. Healing up.
Fresh shirt right here.
I need heals desperately.
Hemlock here.
Is that hemlock still in there? I
here,
don't have
I'm
a second
splitting.
gun. I could use it if nobody has it.
Yeah, I don't have it.
I have 2
I just
I just
syringes.
picked up 2.
Okay, well
I
here's
just
two
took
for
2 out.
Joe.
So you need them
okay,
too,
well,
Zero.
Take. Okay, we'll take one.
Can
I've
you
got
heal
3.
yourself, Zero?
Yeah, I can.
you got
yeah.
heals? Okay.
Do you need
Yeah, I
more
don't have any
heals,
more
Jeff?
heals. Well, here, I'll take this one syringe.
Zero, drop some. I got
I'm
two.
good. I'm good. I'm good.
So
I'm
you
good. I'm good.
need
I'm
what?
good. Yeah.
You good? You got
Yep.
enough?
That little bit's not going to make a difference for me. Either I'm going to do well enough to slaughter them, or...
I don't know. I've 100% died with about that
Here's
much
here's 2 more.
health left.
I haven't either. I slaughter
beat
them
people
enough.
With like one, you've never won with like one
No.
extra health. But if you're missing 3, you won't
I
get
have
there.
with like
you know?
1 to. I've lost with if not 1 health, like 3 or something like that.
Yeah, that's
There's a
happening
Eva with a purple.
very
bolt.
often. Yeah, you know what? I guess I'll do that Eva for bullshit. I dropped the hemlock just from I went to.
I got 1.
And I'm
if
good.
you
I got a
want.
flat line.
Hey, we Did pretty
Mr.
good
Fancy.
there.
Is there any extra shotgun bullets? around?
Yes, I did see some.
I dropped like 3 beside it, I think.
I have 11 extra, so. Yeah, I have that. Okay. I just thought I remembered seeing them. I couldn't remember where. Ah, sweet. Check it.
Oh, double tap if you want it.
Alright.
Alright, so I guess you want to go out the front here? Do the use.
Sure. The
Sounds
use.
good.
They came from here, so this might be looted. Ooh, I don't know. I might stick with this. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with this Eva purple bolt. I do kind of like it. Oh, here's 20 more. Oh, no, that's not it.
Oh, I
Here's
need-
20 more heavy.
oh.
Oh, you need heavy? Zero? I thought you didn't. You ran back, so.
Yeah, I could use a box. Thanks.
There's
Oh,
more
thanks.
here. With a, there's like
Yeah,
two
go
boxes.
ahead and
I'm good.
replenish what you
Fire.
I
got.
Alright.
got 100 and something. What up, Blade?
Okay.
So what's up, guys?
What's happening with your microphone?
What's that?
Yeah,
you
your
guys hear
mic
that
is
clicking
going
noise?
crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in my truck right
There's like an echo.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. I thought you
There's like an echo and a rumbling. And my echo's robotic.
Yeah, it's only because I'm in my truck. I won't be in here for long.
Shit is.
I was just wondering, did you see that the Modern Warfare, the Warzone, is
Yeah,
free
yeah, I got that shit
to
downloaded.
download?
What, with the Xbox shit? What's it
No,
called?
it's free to for
No,
everybody.
it's
it's
just
just
free.
free to download.
That was free for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got that shit downloaded.
yeah, it's up to 4 players. I was gonna see if you guys want to play a little bit either later tonight or tomorrow, like after everybody was done working on.
Yeah, I'll be down to play. I don't know about tonight, but definitely I'll be down to play a little bit this weekend.
All right, that'd be up. That's what's up. I just wanted to see if everybody had it, and if not, if they wanted to download it. That includes you, Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be able to download it. I accidentally erased it, but I'll try to see if I can make some room and re-download.
All right, yeah, because I don't play like the ones like you guys do, like with Apex. It's just I downloaded it. I'm able to play Apex now. I've been trying to play a couple of games. I just can't seem to get it
Okay.
down.
Yeah, it took a while.
But I just figured I'd see, if y'all wanted to play the free one.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm the same way with Call of Duty. Like, I played a couple games, and I just, like, don't understand the mechanics of it. It's slaughtered. So, definitely would help to play with somebody who is...
So I just figured, if y'all had
I'd
it,
like
whatever.
to try it out. I didn't download it yet.
But yeah, we'll definitely, yeah,
Alright.
we'll do that.
All right, I know this is. All right, I know my mic's fucking with y'all
Yeah,
10
it's
second gaming, so
So
I'll talk to
crazy.
y'all later.
Alright.
All right, bye.
Alright. Later, man.
Later.
He said it's
Yeah,
shot
that, it's like, I thought, I don't know, yeah, I was like, yeah, it's like crazy. And he's like, yeah, it's because I'm in my truck. And I'm like,
I forgot I saw him
okay,
join.
but it's like
And then-
insane.
I was like, you hear that? And you're like, yeah, your mic is crazy. I thought you talked to me, so I'm like trying to adjust my mic. I'm like, what? That's me? What the fuck? Oh shit, Storm's coming in.
Sounded like he was going into a black hole and he wanted us to tell
Yeah,
his family
yeah,
welcome or
and
something.
I'm like, yeah, your mic's crazy. And he's like, yeah,
Don't
no, I'm
forget
just,
me.
I'm in my truck. I'm like, okay, it doesn't stop your mic from being crazy.
I thought that meant he was just gonna stay there the whole time. Like,
Yeah,
what?
and then yeah, and then when he was
That's
like, "Yeah, I'm
not-
not gonna be in it for long," I thought like he's not gonna be in his truck for long, and I was gonna say, "Well, why don't you just join when you're out of your truck?" But he's not gonna be in a party for long, so that makes sense.
So if you scare a dragon by touching it, counts as the first shot on it.
Oh
I
shit.
didn't make the bones.
The shield's still in
walls.
there.
Coming in on
Yeah, I
you.
just
It's only
wanted to
round
land where
one.
that dragon was. I got it.
Oh,
Yeah,
somebody's
it's
zipping up on me.
Oh shit! Hop off! I can't get up there. I can't get up there. gonna be alone up there.
Yeah, they're going to the bones above me.
Hope they follow you down.
I popped the shield on one of those guys. I'm dropping off though. I'm not gonna make a target for him.
Yep, they're on me.
They've got to come to us.
Yeah, they dropped down. Better run, ho. There's like 3 of them now.
Robot ran.
Oh, this gas
About to be a
fucking
box.
me up, man. Oh, they're still in the
Shit.
fucking bones, man. God damn, I'm down. Yeah, I just got it. There's people on the ground, people shooting from up top.
Yeah, I'm a dead man.
Yeah, there's no way to win that fight. It's impossible.
I'm
go
going
heal
to
up.
die anyway, but
The other guy's right there.
they're going to fuck me up.
They're staying far away, though. Oh, you're running. Oh, I didn't mean, like, leave.
Live.
Okay.
He's got to go
I mean,
heal up.
I don't know what.
I thought I meant, like, go here or something.
I mean, they were directly on my ass. I'm going to try to come back in a second. I'm just saying, I couldn't have gotten away in the village. I'd be a fucking dead man.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
what am I going to do? Heal
Yeah, your
150
mic sounds a little
and then
fucked up. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Kill 3 people. I mean,
They must not be very good.
God, you're still on your box.
Yeah, your mic is getting staticky too, but don't worry about it after this fight. Don't worry about it. Just heads and up.
I don't know what to do here other than just come pick you up.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Target spotted.
I don't know what I could have done there. I mean, if I'd ran in the village, I'd have definitely been instantly
Yeah.
dead. I mean,
No, I mean that's the play. You get to where you got to get to get healed up. And we've all done it. We've all done that exact thing. I mean, ran as far as we needed
yeah,
to go heal.
I got P. I'll be right back.
You? Would they
Yeah.
catch you?
He's like, I don't know what I can do besides like run in and try to grab your banners. So that's what he did.
Well, I mean, it's at that point, you might as well have just kept going in the cave.
Well, he did. He went and healed up, and then yeah.
Oh, and then came back. Well, yeah, there's still 3 of them.
Let me check this real quick. Oh. Got a comment from Agent Master.
Hey, you.
He said, "Amazing post. Thanks, bud."
What's on you? It's not your remote.
I don't know what the appropriate emoji is. Not the laughing face. The thumbs up, I guess.
Squiggly eyes, smiley face. I don't know.
Yeah, my emoji game is weak.
Yeah, I don't use that shit.
I try to on Instagram because a comment with at least
Everybody
4
else does.
words and emojis and stuff like that, but at least 4 words like counts for more engagement than just like a 1 word or just emoji.
Oh, is that
yeah.
a statistic?
So I try to use them.
I don't know. I feel like on Instagram, you gotta use like muscle bicep and like fire emoji on like every post is what it looks like.
Yeah, they're like strength, strength fire, strength fire.
I'm gonna restart my headset.
What the fuck does this mean? I've been buying so much shit that I have all these purchases through like PayPal, and I don't know what they are.
Are we ready up? I
No,
lost all
not yet. I'm gonna buy some Apex coins,
Oh, okay.
but I'm looking. I spent $100 at Walmart on coffee drinks. That I know, but I have a thing here for $45.
On the
Yeah.
Starbucks ones?
I,
Oh, that was the Walmart
yeah,
website. That was a
I
pretty
bought
good
some
deal you
on
got.
on Amazon before, like when all this started, and they were like $27, and then they went up to like $38 or something for a 12-pack. So I found them on Walmart for 25 or whatever. So I bought 4 12-packs.
Oh, so even better
Yeah.
than the first purchase.
But then I have another.
Nice. And it's how many in a pack?
Yeah, so I bought
12.
48 of them for $100.
Yeah, they're like at least $3
Yeah.
at Wawa, right? And
Yeah, sometimes you
$3.50.
can get them on sale 2 for $5, but I've done that. But then like I have to run out to Wawa, and I feel like a dick when I'm buying like 8 of them. So
It's like
Yeah.
emptying the whole cooler
yeah,
section
so
out.
like
Sorry guys, you're
Yeah.
not getting the deal. I'm getting all the deals.
so just buy them online. But yeah, so I have a purchase here for like $45 that I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. Purchase for like $14 that I don't know what it is.
Oh, that reminds me. Need to check my bank account because I went to the A Plus on Decatur
Right.
Street last
Mhm.
night to get cigarettes, and I ran my credit card, well, my police and fire card 2 times, and he said it didn't say declined on my end, but he said it was declined. And I'm like, what? There's no way. So I got like a good amount of money in there, and I'm like breaking up, I think, and then.
Yeah,
And
And then
Okay.
used it.
yeah, we
Hear
lost
me?
you for a second, but you're back.
I didn't hear you. It's just breaking. It's just getting
Okay.
staticky.
So then I used a different card, and he said it went through, but on my little computer screen for the card, it looked the same as the other 2 times. So I don't know if I got charged twice. And then I went out to my car and I checked my account. I'm like, what? Did somebody drain my account? And no one did. So I don't get why he would tell me it's declined 2 times. I'm pretty sure it tells you declined on the card reader.
I don't know, actually.
It was just shady because it definitely shouldn't have been declined. So I'm thinking maybe he just charged me like 2 or 3 times for my cigarettes. Or I feel at least I should check
Yeah, I
to be
would. I
sure
mean,
that-
I would check to see if there's charges on your thing.
I mean, that night there wasn't, but sometimes it takes a
It
day.
should still show
Because-
up as pending, though. I'd think. I don't know, mine shows up immediately as pending. Like my available balance will reflect it, and then it will tell me.
Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah. Oh, shit. I guess my sister gave me money for my birthday. Didn't even tell me. Transferred it in my account. I didn't say anything.
Nice. Happy birthday, Money Fairy says.
I transferred it to your PayPal account.
Yeah, that's all right. Yep. Thanks, Zero.
Well-
You're the best, bro.
No, I mean, one of us misunderstood. I'm saying, did your sister transfer
Oh.
her?
Oh, I thought you were saying like, oh, you got my transfer that I gave you in your PayPal.
Oh yeah, yeah. Right.
No, in my bank account.
How does she like? How does somebody with a different account transfer money to your account? Like,
We have the same bank, so like I can transfer her money, she
oh,
can
that's
transfer
cool.
me money. Yeah, whenever
I guess I've
give
just
her money,
never.
she gives me
I
money.
mean, I've transferred between my own
Yeah, yeah.
accounts, but I've never
Yeah.
done
On
it
the
to
website,
a
yeah.
fellow.
You can just
Oh,
do
that's
it.
cool.
Like I can go and see a list of if I want to do a transfer, anybody I've ever transferred to or from, and put it in their checking or savings or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah, it makes it easy. Like when I back in the day when I borrowed money from my sister, or if I was
Yeah.
sending John money, my friend John, who also has Police and Fire. You know, just use that. It's pretty
I want-
convenient.
Yeah, I want the feature where you can like snatch money out of the same people's accounts if necessary.
They probably have an app for that.
Yeah.
On the dark web. I'm
Dollar snatcher.
sure. Dollar Snatcher. .exe.
Come on, man. Give me good stuff.
How many packs
10.
you buy? 10? Yeah.
I mean, I got some alright looking skins, but
Yeah, I lucked out. I got a good amount of legendary skins. I have like a couple legendary lifelines. I have a legendary Revenant, the one where he's like the devil with the horns.
okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
At
got an
least
epic
one.
in this one.
Mirage, the one.
Epic crafting materials, 200. Alright, I'll take it.
That's all. Oh, I was thinking the other one. The other one's what? 400 or 800? The gold crafting materials, 800 maybe. right?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was 5. I don't know. I've never gotten it.
Wow. No? Oh shit! I've gotten it a couple
Yeah,
times. for
I'm
sure.
just.
I've like about 4,300 crafting shit right
I have
now.
1,300. I'm buying another 10. Wait, it didn't let me buy them. Because if I get, I bought 10. I know I just bought 10. Now this is my third 10. So this is 30, and it says you get at least one legendary every 30 packs. So
Is this all today? you
no,
bought
I
all these?
wonder if it is in the same day.
Yeah. So what was your
I didn't
legendary
get a legendary today.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, legendary.
But I thought it's
just got it.
guaranteed. 1 in
No, it's
10.
1 in 30. It is a banner frame for
1 in
Lifeline.
Aw.
Yes. I mean, at least it's a cool banner frame. And I do play Lifeline, but like, I want it to be a skin, man.
That sucks.
I just got 2 epics in a row though. One was a, they both were gun skins. So. Oh, this is a weapon charm, not a gun skin. That's a dumb weapon charm.
There's epic weapon
Yeah.
charms. I thought they were all just like one
Nah,
level.
yeah,
They're
they're
all
all
there.
over the joint ski. Alright, I'm getting crafting materials, so.
Can you buy crafting
Now, ooh,
materials,
another
or-
epic or
or
another
get them out of
legendary.
packs?
Gold guy. And you'll never guess what it is. Another
Mozambique.
banner frame
No.
For
for
what?
Revenant. Even worse.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I have Watson's epic thing, and she's like some pink devil girl.
Yeah, I got that.
I don't know if I've
skin
seen that one yet.
also. I think that's the skin I have equipped currently. But I just got another purple crafting material. 2 boxes remaining. Fingers crossed, gentlemen. Fingers crossed. Another purple. It's a Craver skin. And I guess it's whatever. Last box. Last box. Last box. All blues. All blues. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Crafting material. I'll take it. And it's called New Moon, a wingman skin, just like an all black skin. I don't know. Alright,
It's an all black wingman skin. I don't think
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
alright, so now I have 16 joint skis. It's time to buy that Birdman skin. Bam! Here we go. I'm a samurai, motherfuckers. It makes me happy. I'm gonna slaughter kids with this shit now.
I'm gonna get slaughtered with this shirt on, bruh. With who?
Birdman? the Samurai Birdman skin.
Oh, you finally
Yeah,
got
I
it.
got enough crafting materials in those 20
Oh, with the
boxes.
craft and shit. Okay. I mean, that's about $18, so I guess you got that plus extra shit. So.
Yeah, if I bought it outright, it would
Worked
be
out better than
18
you
bucks,
hoped.
yeah.
Yeah, this match is gonna be extra given. The extra.
But you can't even do that now, though.
Oh,
right?
only if it's featured in the store. So you have to be lucky. You have to have the money and be lucky. I hope Kim's not watching the stream. She just watched me spend $40 on this game.
Well, you can spend whatever you want. It's your money, right?
But
You still getting full payout from your
Yeah.
job?
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, they really came through with this.
Yeah, mine's giving me
Okay.
$200 every 2 weeks, minus taxes.
I mean, that's not bad. They don't have to
I
give
mean,
you
yeah, it's
anything.
better than nothing.
And
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, your job really
yeah,
stepped
and
up.
what's
I don't think I know anybody who's getting their full pay rate.
yeah, and what's crazy is like he
go here.
asked me. If,
Uh-oh.
oh yeah,
And the
somebody.
batteries
Oh,
are
is that,
dying.
that's
I
zero.
lost
Somebody's behind
vibration.
us here. Oh, we got 2 people in that building.
Oh, somebody. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
around me.
with
I
me.
gotta
Which
drop
way you going?
down.
Oh shit! Yeah, they just fucking hit me with the
There's a-
charge rifle.
Oh
301
shit!
in
There's
here.
a whole bunch of people in here.
Oh, they're inside
They're
with me.
I got
Okay,
that
there's
full-
another one now on
Man,
the porch. Another one right outside the door. I'm trying to block the door. He's gonna break it. Oh, you didn't say
Calm
that?
down. Fuck, there's 2 of them in here.
I climbed up.
Ah,
Oh, this is two
so I
squads.
knocked. Cause there might be more than 2 squads.
I just gotta find bullets off of this dude and I'll be right in there, Zero.
All right, yeah.
Shit,
Oh,
I
this
hear
box
somebody
is
else.
probably looted.
I got a shirt, so that's cool. I forget. Yeah, I didn't look in that box yet. Might be something in
Yeah,
there.
see if there's some bullets for you.
Yeah, I got 20. Yeah, I'll take that. My other gun's a wingman, so there's heavy in there. There's a 301 if you need a gun, Zero.
Okay, okay.
It's in here.
Oh,
Oh, there it is. Alright. Let's go get Joe. We got 40 seconds. To
all right.
Oh, you got health. Okay, cool. Alright, this is the building. Oh, that's not cool. Oh, well, I didn't get
I
hurt.
think I heard somebody behind us.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
behind
there's
me.
one on
They're
that
behind me.
roof.
So
Okay.
I'm getting here. They're by those bird
Yeah, I'm coming.
cages over there.
They're on the roof.
There's one right here.
They're on the roof of that building.
Oh, they're on
That's
the
right.
roof. Okay.
Grim, to your right. To your right. To your right. Grim, to your
Oh,
right.
yes. Nope.
You bitch.
You ran right past him. He's looting that box.
Oh, here comes more.
Oh, there's somebody else right here.
Damn.
What? How did he blow us both away with that? What the fuck? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, what was that
Yeah,
anyway? I'm looking
that
at my
last
recap.
move.
What?
Oh, in the end, he did 72 and 3 hits with the flatline. He did 57, 19, and 72 with 3 hits. He's probably shooting
Damn.
me the whole fucking time.
Oh shit. I did 78 when he did 60 to me, but that other guy had hurt me too. So
Oh. Let me change my batteries. Real weird playing when you can't feel when you're getting shot, no vibration at all. Sometimes I think like, oh, they're not even getting me,
Hey, some people play with that off.
and then I fall down.
Because they.
I definitely like it.
Yeah, I'm used to it now, but like people play with it off because their theory is that it's like somebody shaking your hand while you're trying to aim, which makes sense
Yeah.
in theory, but I like it.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, because otherwise I don't know if I'm getting shot while I'm fighting them because I can't look at my health gauge. Switch my batteries. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, after I spent like $100 in batteries switching, I'm like, you know what? I need to just buy rechargeable shits.
Yeah, I've just got some rechargeable double A's.
We started with that because we figured, well, we'll use them for other stuff, but then we wound up not. We wound up just strictly using them for the Xbox. But then, like, you still have to like take the back off and change them and stuff, and that became more of a hassle than I was interested in. So.
Yeah, it is less convenient.
And for like a little bit more money.
I gotta order one of those chargers. Yeah,
for a little bit more money. I think to buy the batteries, and I bought like extra batteries because we have a couple controllers, and there was that time was from both me and Kim, so we had like 2 charger packs, like the things that plug into the wall, and a couple sets each, and I wound up spending like, I don't know, $20 or $30 on it.
For 2?
When I probably could have spent $30 and got 2 of the chargers I have now.
Yeah, so I need to order one of them also. I want to fix my issue. So listen, here's the details. Quick rundown. When my audio goes out, if I just unplug the headset, plug it back in, it doesn't fix it. If I unplug the box with the controller, you know, from the controller, and put that back in, that fixes it. But then I tried my brother's box, and the same thing happened like instantly. So I would assume it's the controller, right? From, you know, process elimination.
Oh, his box messed up too.
Yeah.
Same way.
Yeah, I tried it, and like
Yeah,
within the first minute, it did it. So I would assume controller, right? Like,
yeah, I think
I mean,
I just don't want to buy the wrong thing
that's
for no
me.
reason.
the controller. Yeah, I don't know. I would see if you could borrow.
Why don't
Yeah,
you
I would
get
see if
his
you could borrow his
controller, too?
controller.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that then. That's the only variable. Oh, that was you. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm behind this spot. Are you
Sketty,
kidding me?
I have a triple take. Is he
No,
he
he
coming
ran up
towards you?
there.
Still no gun.
I have a
There's an
triple take.
alternator here.
I'm gonna try to be creep. Oh, fuck. Alright, I'm gonna go check out Zero.
Right up there. There's a dude right up there.
Oh, just in time for the fucking explosion. That was sweet. I'm going to the other side. I have no shield now. Oh, God. Yep, that ain't happening.
Fuck.
Jesus Christ, man. And there's 2 over here.
Oh,
on me.
God.
Fuck, man, that sucked.
I didn't even see him there. I mean, I knew he was up there, but I couldn't fucking see him aim at him.
No good.
Nope.
No bueno. Me no like you.
Oh shit. What? Is my Apple Pencil broken? Like, are you broken, Apple Pencil?
Bag. You know, whatever the case, we're winning. We will defeat all of our enemies.
Our path is made today.
Apple Pencil, why are you not working, Apple Pencil? I don't think there's a way to turn it on. It shouldn't be dead.
Introducing your champion. Follow my path to win.
Why are you not plugging in?
I hope
Hope I didn't scare you.
Alright, let's do some of this shit right here, man. I'm gonna land right where I pinged, right in front of that shit with the net in the back on the right, you know what I mean?
Alright, I'll,
That building. I'm gonna go back
That's
there.
all.
Then I'm gonna work back this way. So if we have at least one more building after that, sweet. Who just climbs on the roof?
No.
Is that you, Joe?
charge.
Alright. Who has a heavy gun? Alright, never mind.
Somebody open this door here.
That's what I was trying to say, Joe, about like I'm gonna go in that little building there, but if I get more than just this one building out of this whole strip,
Okay, well here you can have this gun.
because that's what happens a lot. I go to one. I got
Oh,
R45.
that's all I got.
Well, if you don't
Shit is
That's all I
popping.
got.
oh,
Sorry,
you don't
dude.
need it. Yeah, take that
No,
one. Take
that's
the
all
other one.
good. I have one.
Dude's in here.
RE45 and
Or
That's
no,
what
they're
I-
not right in here. They're very close
Yeah.
though.
Because that for some reason that happens a lot when we land there. I get that building I land in, and that's it. There's a shirt. Oh, you guys have shirts. All right.
so I get where should I
Oh,
land? Where do
fucking
you want me to
drone.
land now?
I just anywhere
Oh, shit.
that leaves me at least 2 buildings. What I was saying.
Yo, I'm down. He got me with fucking L-Star from over there.
All right, somebody's right here.
Shot at. Reloading. Enemy down.
Behind you.
Somebody coming from behind you.
I'm down.
He's right outside this door. Oh, they set a gas trap in there.
All right, there's another motherfucker. God.
Contact with target.
Oh, there's 2 of them. Too many motherfuckers. Can't
You
believe
get what
that
I'm
guy
trying to say,
talked
though,
me up for
Joe,
that
right?
L-Star.
I mean, I understand we all can't have a full strip, but then it ends up I get the back building, then you guys each get a full strip. That's all
Well,
I'm
we
saying.
should land somewhere
That's what I was
else.
trying
I
to
mean, there's
say.
not
I
really
mean-
enough loot to.
I mean, we can land that. Somebody could land. That's what I was saying. At least let me get another little building or something.
Yeah, I really, you know, even on a whole arm, I don't think there is enough loot for 3 people most of the time. Sometimes
Well, where
there
else
is.
are you going to
just-
start? I mean, I just feel like.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying
each
like
of
maybe
those
2
arms
people
are
on
3
one arm.
times as much loot as that one little building. There's like 2 piles. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
but
all I was trying
no,
to
I'm
say.
just
I'm
saying,
not
like,
mad
maybe
about
2
it. That's just what I was trying to explain as we were dropping. That's all.
Oh no, I know. I'm just saying, like, maybe 2 people go to that one, you know, one side of the one arm, and one of us lands on the
We're
closest
laying at
part
the
of the
other
next
end,
arm.
so then we meet in the middle at least.
Well,
so at least we
yeah,
get the
but I
Okay,
mean-
I can land. I can land in the
the whole
intersection.
enough for 3
I can
people.
land in the intersection. That's fine.
That's all I was trying to say when I was saying. That's all, just so we could.
Yeah, I'm just
or
saying maybe.
just land in the middle of the thing. I'm
yeah, the
just trying to.
intersection's fine. Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I'm just saying
that's
one
all.
person-
You know, I'm not saying I'm mad about it. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
This seems fair, you know. So at least I
I'm-
get more than just that one little spot I land at, and then everything else is gone, and you guys are running away towards the middle, and there's nothing left for me to get it all. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying as an addendum to what you're saying, not to go against that, that maybe 2 people should land on an arm and one person should go to either the closest building in the middle or to the closest part of the next arm, because even in a whole arm, it's like a toss-up whether there's going to be enough shit for everybody to get a shirt and a gun.
Yeah, I found 2 RE45s and
Well,
like 37 bullets or something.
I found
Yeah,
like
I
a
found
Prowler and
one RE45
well, I was
is
okay.
20
I had a
bullets. I
Prowler.
mean, it's a little ass building.
Right.
you know,
Right, and
that's
then I
all
gave
I'm
you my
saying.
second
That's why I was trying to say.
RE45
At
and my
least one
17
other
bullets.
room would have been cool. You did, but I don't want to take your second gun. Like, That's what I was
but,
saying, like, you know, when we're laying, I'm like, at least leave me one other
Right.
room to go to besides this
right,
one. That's
right.
all
No,
I was
and I
asking.
understand that.
Which is still less than
Right,
both
and
you
I-
would get. I was just asking for that
Right,
little
and
bit extra.
I
you know
understand
what I'm
that.
saying?
So when I dropped you my second gun, so instead of me picking it up and dropping it, you would have just picked that up, and those bullets. You know what I mean? So that's why I dropped it.
Well, you told me it was your only gun. That's why
No,
I didn't take it.
no.
And I pinged it. You said that's all I got.
Oh well, that's not what I meant. I had that and an RE45 and
Oh.
I
Well, I don't want to take your only
yeah,
gun.
two
That's why I left it
RE45s
there.
and 37 bullets, or something, or 40 bullets, I guess.
Introducing your champion.
Because I think what I dropped was 17 bullets.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think I had 37 total after that, which did help. I'm just, you know, because you know when you're that person that gets stuck in one room and then that's it. It sucks.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to discuss it before we drop. That's all I'm saying.
Just a thought, we could land here. Okay. Follow the leader.
Let's go this way.
Actually, I'll hit this door here.
Wrong side of that building.
You hear anybody yet or
No.
not?
Heavy ammo here.
I don't.
Body shield here.
Another shirt in here.
Heavy ammo.
Ultranada.
Attention. First blood.
Yeah, now we're talking. Let's do it. Body shield here. Level 1.
I'm gonna get rid of this Mozambique.
There's a purple
It's
sniper
an
bag at
alternator
the other
in
part of that.
room up there. Dropping the L-Star right now.
I just
You
picked
want
one
it?
up out of that box.
Right where I'm at.
L-Star here.
Alright, I'll drop this energy for you.
RE45 here. Body shield here. Level 1. I could use
There's like 2 shirts up in there, Joe, if you're going up in that
Okay.
first building.
I need a bago.
extended light mag here.
Alright. I could use select fire for this trailer. Or shotgun if anyone needs it.
I've marked a level 2 light mag there for somebody before it goes away.
Yeah, I don't have light. I don't have light.
Yeah, I could use that. Oh,
Alright,
show.
I'm dropping my heavy gun and going sniper.
There's a purple sniper
there's a
clip
Purple, yeah. Shit, where'd that blue? What? Didn't
in
I
the
just
back corner of that building.
dibs
No, the
it?
blue
I
is
thought-
where you're running.
Oh, yeah. I thought I dibs it, but it
Yeah, I had a blue sniper, but you said there's a
only
purple.
the stock. Oh yeah, purple
Yeah, it's in
sniper.
the-
Yeah, in that building.
It's on this porch of this.
Okay. That
Right,
big
yeah.
building.
It's in there. Yeah, the light mag disappeared. So I wasn't sure what's going on.
Yeah, I think I've had stuff that I've dibs like kind of disappear before.
Found a bag.
Did I dibs that helmet on accident?
So if I find a wingman before a select fire, I might just go with that. So I feel like I need to practice with it. It can be very good.
Yeah. I've got plenty of light. If one of y'all need that.
I'm alright.
Some energy and sniper.
Hey friends, I got sniper ammo here.
Alright.
Good
I
choke.
think we looted everywhere here by now, right?
I think so. Did anybody loot that
Yeah,
building?
that and.
Yeah.
Alright.
Let me take this. This shit's not working for some reason.
Damn, 10 squads gone already.
Well, that's another 10 points for us or some shit, right?
They pour out a little bit of my 40 for you into my mouth.
You drinking a 40?
Yeah, bitches. No, I was just joking.
Oh.
It's a bottle though.
I mean, it'd be cool if you were.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not anti-40s, to be clear.
No, no. Some of that OE.
Energy. 2 syringes.
Some fucking steel reserve.
Shield cells, more energy.
Yeah, I got 210 on the energies. I guess I can fit another 30 or so, so I'll do that.
Here's a
More
Bernie.
sniper ammo in here.
Ooh, you? Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
I've got sniper ammo here.
Gonna go up to the diving board shit?
Care package.
All right.
I'm grabbing that Bernie.
There might be people.
Yeah, there's people
Yeah,
here.
100%
Alright,
here.
I'm coming up now.
I'm gonna go to this hole and throw a Bernie down.
They're down
Keep
here.
look-
Yeah. Okay.
Keep looking here, homo. See what happens. Alright, that's loud as fuck. I'm gonna go in the front door now.
All
Right here?
I'm
There's
gonna
one right here.
distract them.
Oh, fuck you, bitch. Stop
Oh,
running.
we're being shot from across the way. Ah, that fucked
shit.
me up.
Alright, I got him, but I'm almost dead. I'm ghosting and healing.
Shit. I broke the shield on that one running in the back of Joe's building. I mean, one of them. There's two of them.
Fuck, man.
Coming, Joe. Got that dude?
You got him?
Yep.
Who's
Oh,
still
here's another
shooting?
one in here.
Alright.
Another dude.
Alright, I'm gonna go on the other side.
I'm
Ah.
dead. Okay. I mean, I'm
Ping him
down.
to see him on the way.
She's healing herself. She's getting her buddy up. Yeah.
No, she ain't.
Barrage here to save the day.
There we go.
Good shit.
Ooh, if I'm lucky, I could use some healing shit. Crawl over here, Zio.
I'm.
Oh, it pulled me out. Fuck it. Syringe.
.200 heavy rounds of flatline. Phoenix. Med kit.
Shit, the wall's coming. We should get enough heals to fund our adventure, though.
Level 2.
Yeah.
Nobody has, Blackfire, I guess, huh?
Medkit here.
I don't know. No, I don't have any med kits.
Oh,
You
I
dropped
grabbed
some
that med
shields
kit.
for it.
Okay.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
It's all gone.
Oh shit.
Never
Oh
mind.
shit.
I'm gonna check
Yeah, you
this last
pinged it,
box.
so I grabbed it.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
come
then
on,
I looked,
syringe.
and I was
No,
like, ah, that was a
no.
bad idea. Alright, so I,
Yes.
turns out I have 4 syringes. I do have Phoenix kit though, which should help if I really need it.
I'm right behind you, Joe. I almost died there. I had like very
Yeah, I
low
saw
health.
that.
Oh, there's a balloon around here.
Yeah, other side of the
somewhere,
foot,
right?
I think.
Yeah, we have to go pretty far. Oh shit, I need to heal up. I'm like,
I just gotta patch myself up. Hang
oh,
on.
the water makes it run slow. I hate it. Oh, on this side of the foot.
Yep.
That's what you said, right?
Good shit.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, we're almost
Alright,
in.
full health. Let's get it. Yeah, we can just run in. Definitely make it. I might actually get burned if I take this balloon. I'm so late. Yeah, I'm just
Alright.
gonna run in.
The ship is right ahead of us. I'm gonna land on
Oh
real quick.
shit!
just
I
to
tried
see
to
what's
land on
up.
the mountain, but it
I
didn't
mean-
let me.
Anybody have any extra
Yeah.
health heals I could spare? I have 2 syringes left.
The
I
ship,
have extra shield cells.
the ship is unlooted. It doesn't look
Alright,
like
yeah,
there's
no, you're
anything
good.
on it, but
4 shields. 4 shields. Well, I'm dropping them anyway, so if you want to grab them. I just picked up whatever I could out of those boxes.
the ship's full of mostly dog shit.
That's my favorite. I love me some dog shit.
Round 2.
There's a
Yeah.
fresh blue armor, but you guys don't even need it. So.
Yeah, that wouldn't even help. Alrighty.
Box of sniper.
Heavy mag here.
Might as well just get off that shit.
Optics here. Close range.
I'm all U'd up. Shanky share. What do I need? Throwables. Here's some extra heavy too.
Something good there.
And I need some of that besides the other box. Oh, I need light. That's some good shit. Good shit right there.
No,
You seen
it's an
somebody?
open-
No, it's
yeah.
a looted care package. Yeah, I was looking at the same thing.
Well, yeah, we gotta come up with a shorthand for that because care package is too long of a word.
CP.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
I think because people buy caves.
A rocket.
I think I just.
Looks like a
What's
rocket.
by
I thought I
caves?
just saw movement up there. I could be wrong.
Yeah. That's
Okay, I
right.
did hear
I didn't
fire.
see anybody, but I do. It does sound like over there somewhere. And we're not far. We're just gonna have to hook in the cave and we'll be in. Remember, if we retreat, you can snag that blue shield
Yeah.
on the ground. I'm sure it's full. That's
Oh,
far.
shit. Yeah, it is
Oh,
far.
these
Uh,
bins
Yeah,
aren't
the-
open. I want to look for a select file real
These
quick.
bins
though.
down here in the river one, I'm gonna check them real quick.
Ooh. There's 4
you
syringes
guys
here.
got
If
level
anybody
twos.
wants them.
I'm good.
I need this
There's a
burn
blue
stick,
stabilizer. Anybody want it?
shield cell.
And a grenade.
I'm good.
I'll do that. Damn, no prowler shit, huh?
No, I still haven't seen a select fire.
So we got 19 seconds. Yeah, maybe we should just move in. Otherwise, we'll be fighting in the storm. And this one is not
Yeah, I don't have
friendly.
any of
though.
those.
Alright, another Bernie.
That's
Take it. Another
4
syringe.
things there.
Light ammo, blue heavy mag.
I can carry those syringes. I can
Right.
stack them up. I just dropped 4 shield cells.
Cool on shields. Alright. So they might try to push where we came from.
No hostiles in front of us.
Or they could be running in on the other side of market. Alright, I'm gonna run right to the edge.
Wait, where? Oh, that edge? Okay.
Yeah, they probably came the other way, but you never know. I think we're good. They might be through here though.
Beginning ring countdown.
So I just realized I'm not wearing my glasses.
Oh shit, there's somebody right there. They 100% saw
Oh, shit.
me.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
I'm,
okay.
I'm coming. I'm at the mouth of caves.
Throwing through my grenade. Alright, shots fired.
Alright. I'm
I'm
coming
burning
around the
them.
other way.
Recharging shield. Frag out.
I didn't
They're
hit
probably
shit. I
down
can't.
to
I
the
don't
roof.
know where they're at.
Yeah, they
I'm
probably
seeing
ran
somebody
away because they're
roof.
burning and shit.
Yeah, I see red over there. I know that's the dragon. Never mind. Oh yeah, they're running over there. 2 of them.
Oh, so
Wait a
it's
minute.
like straight up running away from us.
Did they not go
No, they
the
went
other
that
way?
way.
Okay.
They're on the
Wanna
roof
push
now.
them?
I'm.
Yeah,
They just called
yeah.
a lifeline.
I don't
care
know about
package in.
pushing. Oh, they just fucked me up.
Zero's got a heal.
They just fucked me up.
Oh yeah,
bad.
they just did the same to me. I'm down. It's all you, Grim.
Fuck. Yeah, you might want to retreat. Fuck. Fuck, I don't know
Got
what
one
the fuck-
bitch. There's one down, so.
I'm getting him up and I'm coming. I'm coming.
Thank you. I'll be there as soon as I heal.
The other one's right by this door.
Alright. I'm zipping to you.
Popping shield real quick.
Thank you for getting me up, Zero. I'm
Is he
coming.
in this building?
I heard him over here.
Oh,
Last.
he's down here. He's down here. Oh, that's a crawler. That is a crawler. Don't worry.
Oh, well, yeah. Like that bitch.
I hear another one coming.
Sounds like somebody's
I don't know
healing
where
up
they're at.
here. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
What, on top
Yeah,
of
there's
that?
nobody here. It definitely sounds like somebody was healing though.
I think they ran this way. They're probably just like hiding in here somewhere like a bitch.
Was there anything cool left in that dude's loot shit?
I wasn't really looking. I was
That care
really
packet
looking
has
for
some
a.
sweet gear for us.
I was just doing a fast thing. I grabbed this shield to fix mine, and I
Shit
couldn't
is
tell you.
popping all
I
around
still have
us.
no throwables.
I hear
Alright,
stuff
I'm
like
kinda going
both
back
over
to it.
there. and
Well, let me
over
look for
there.
throwables real quick in this box then, because.
Okay.
Oh, I hear them. Oh, never mind. That's you. Never mind.
Storm's about to be
medkit,
here.
Yeah, no throwables. I see a burning stick here. I'm dropping a medkit for one of
Yeah,
you
I
guys
just
right
grabbed the
here.
med kit out of there.
Oh, never mind. I only have a couple. There's 4 syringes.
Barrel stabilizer here.
There we
I'm
go.
dropping some of those syringes.
There's one little shield cell there.
So what time you gotta go for the workshop?
6:45.
6:45. All right.
Joe Perry
Building.
sent out an email that we have to go to it, so really trying to not miss it.
All right. Well, you just gotta show up and clock in. I mean, if you sleep during it, they'll never know. Is it everybody in the firm?
Heavy ammo.
Oh shit! I just dropped some heavy. Only 2 squads left.
Okay. All right. I got a bunch of heals if people need it.
They're not in this.
I got like a bunch of syringes.
Oh, Grim's moving up
Alright,
the
yeah,
hill.
I'm
good on heals.
I don't have any big
I
shields.
hear
I just
footsteps
got
on the other side of
small
that,
ones,
though.
but-
I kind of think I do too.
Yeah, somebody was here 39 seconds ago.
Medkit here.
Get zero. Grab that med
Okay.
kit.
You want to skirt on around?
I'm gonna
and try
send
to
this
get to
in.
some-
Yeah. I say we
high
go
ground.
around. Just want to throw that in there to throw them off. I'm sure they're up
Yeah.
on fucking the cliffs. of
Yeah,
the
so
bones or
people
some
went this
shit.
way like 80
There,
seconds
there's
ago.
a big shield cell here, Joe. You're the one.
Yeah, I
saying
don't have
you
any
want-
big ones.
And there's a mastiff.
You guys want to get up on the bones?
Yeah, sure. We
Yeah, I'm
can
gonna drop
climb
the-
up, but be careful.
Should I
they
drop
might
the
be
triple
up there
take
waiting
forward, or
for
should I
us.
keep the triple take since we're going to the bones?
I would rather have a mastiff personally. The bones will probably still be a close fight.
Oh shit!
Remember, they might be waiting around any corner. We're getting raped. If you're almost about to die,
Somebody
just
was
hop
killed
off.
here 90 seconds ago.
Up
Yeah,
on these
where we
bones.
just passed. Yeah, footsteps in front of you like 70 seconds ago.
Great. Already inside the ring.
Come on, burn, motherfuckers, burn!
Oh, they're right there.
I'm hearing something.
Where at? Where?
Directly in front of me. I broke somebody's shield. The squad just jumped up behind them. They're about to get pinched. Oh, I just hit that Revenant for 90.
Oh man! I burned myself to death.
Oh
That
shit!
Revenant was burning.
This bitch is hurt.
Oh, man, they were everywhere.
Yeah, they were up
Was
on the
there two
bones
squads,
waiting
maybe?
for us.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it was 2 squads.
We made points though.
Yeah, burned.
Damn, everybody.
Let me go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
That is not what happened.
Yeah, it was kind of strange. They both went after us. But I don't know. I guess were they on? Was the first one on the other side of the bones from us?
No, they were directly in front, like the way we were walking. There was a caustic and somebody else. I saw.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I fought them. Yeah, I helped fight those guys. But
Yeah, they like peeped out, and I'm like, up, they see me, so they shot, so I popped off. Fuck. I gotta find my charger, my jigger box.
I got pee. I'll be right back.
Oh shit, it's on there. I don't need my charger, my jigger box. It's on there. What is happening here?
so at least we all got some points, right?
Yeah. What is going on? I'm about to freak out. Oh, there we go.
What, that
No.
noise?
I have an extra long cord for the iPad and the Apple Pencil because I only have one of them. The Apple Pencil has like an adapter. So, but anyway, so I plugged it in. It took me a while to find the adapter, then I plugged it in. It was like somehow wrapped around my chair and under one wheel, but like also wrapped around like the trunk of the chair. Like it was, and like every time I tried to like figure it out, I was like pulling my controller, because I have the headset on, so I have the controller on the desk. I was like pulling the controller off the desk. I was just like super frustrating for like a whole 35 seconds. Oh shit, what up? BK13, my bad. I didn't see that. What's up? Appreciate the Sparks. Take us with the code Sparks. Thank you very much. You just saw my little... I got lost. It was just me in this room and I got lost.
Wait, right now? You're lost in your own house in a room?
More when I was trying to figure out the wire situation. Somebody's in chat saying what's up, and I'm like walking around in circles around my chair, like crying. Actually, out of the bathroom. I will be right back.
Yeah.
Oh, are you in the bathroom? Oh, I thought you got out of the shower.
Yeah, you saw that as well. Cool story. I heard that one before. Ha, you don't say.
Macarooni's ready to wrap, snap, crack, and spoonies.
Zero in here.
Still
So.
in here. Bomb ass zero. What,
He
is
left.
building the bathroom?
Redoing the tile, I think. That'd be good.
Yeah, well that makes sense. He's a redoing tile kind of fella.
You finished the tiles here?
Say what?
You done building that bathroom?
Finish the tiles?
Oh yeah, right. Sorry.
That's a pretty quick deuce, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
Well, he was just dropping it.
It's like
Doing the old run by deucing.
A deuce
It's a deuce
by.
by.
yeah.
Got him.
All right, let's do this. It'll be fun. Yeah, well, you know, we all make bad choices. You live, you learn.
So, oh, what the fuck? Brandon messed up. So, you know, I usually see a lot of mosquitoes around my house in the summer. So far, I haven't seen any regular ones, but I've killed at least 4 on my porch of these huge ass, like I think the female mosquitoes that are the real big ones.
I think those aren't even mosquitoes. Those are called mosquito hawks. They look like a fucking mosquito, but
Oh, really?
I think so.
Well, that would make sense, because I haven't gotten bit by a mosquito yet, and I haven't seen any, but I keep seeing these bitches on my porch.
These things are kind of freaky looking.
Yeah.
All right,
Hold your breath. If
I'm gonna go.
All
I'm
right.
gonna go right for that building in the center. I mean, not the center, but the that shit.
this way.
There. And I'll land there.
Alright, I will land.
Let's do it. You're landing at Marcus, Joe? That's not where we're
Well,
going.
I mean, I didn't want to take too much loot again, man. I'm just. Oh, somebody's on me. Well, they're running away. They went to the back
Okay.
area. This back.
Alright, I hear him. I'm going to the back.
Yep.
Coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Stop climbing the wall.
I'm
Stop climbing the wall,
outside.
you dumb.
Oh my god, she has like 2 health. Bitch.
I hit her. She's got more than 2 health.
There it is. Finally.
She a bad bitch.
Got like 20 maybe. Like 16.
Yeah, I hit her for
Oh,
Somebody
there's
else.
somebody else coming.
She's got L-Star.
Shots fired and they're hitting me.
Climb in here, Joe. Shit, I only have 1 clip left.
what is it? Light bullets?
Yeah. Lock that
Yep,
door.
I just
Ken,
dro-
Joe.
I just
yeah,
dropped
light
34
bulbs, I mean,
behind you.
Yeah. And a shield or shield cells. Did you look in that box? Is there a shield in there?
0, I got syringes for you.
Give him my
Do you need health, Zero? I have 2 syringes.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I got it all.
Alright, there you go.
Thank you.
I am repairing myself.
Alright, now there's these 2 boxes to loot. The dealer jam. There's an L-Star and bullets in that first one.
Scanning the area. Repairing.
Yeah, I want to try sniping. I'm gonna do that shit. I took the energy bullets just so they can't. Here, I can drop some light bullets now. Now that I'm not double light.
Anybody have any, light or extra shield cells?
No, I have a
don't have
Phoenix kit. That's
Hardly
it.
anything.
Oh.
Oh, here's a couple of shield cells.
You don't have a shirt yet, Zero? Damn.
Somebody's being brought back.
Here's a med kit.
Med kit here.
Do you have
Oh,
any
fuck.
health heals? I
Enemies.
can give you.
Oh,
Where?
yeah, that was you guys running by me. As you guys running by me.
I
Damn.
think there's somebody on the roof.
I'm definitely
I think
hearing
there's
somebody.
somebody on the roof. Somebody went this way not that long ago.
Let's go this way.
Okay.
Oh, there's a death box in here.
Let's go this way.
Light ammo here.
Oh, and a select fire in there.
There's select
Black
fire in there.
fire. Yeah, I'll pick that up for later.
116. Oh,
I'm
actually,
throwing
yeah.
down this fucking.
Ooh,
Frag grenade here.
us. Yeah, throw those. Yeah, he's running up. Anybody with that flatline? I might stick with this wingman for now.
Go.
There's another one here.
Somebody's
Oh,
coming.
here's a
Somebody's
I'm
Tyler.
hearing people. Yeah, fuck it. I'm getting the flatline. Alright, let me go get that. I'm dropping the flatline then if anybody wants it. Is a shirt in here? Or is
Yeah,
everybody
we
have
got
shirts?
shirts.
Enemies
I'm
around
gonna
this
grab
side.
that. Where was that triple take?
Contact with hostile.
Oh god damn! How'd he get in? There's 2 of them.
Fuck, man. Oh, this is so terrible.
Making contact.
Ping if you see him.
They're on top of us.
Ah, shit.
Yes, I'm in the ring.
Oh, 144. That bitch. Oh, man.
Yeah, there were 3 of them, I think. I know there were because that robot wasn't one of the ones that
Yeah,
attacked us.
when I was killed, it was a wraith and a lifeline.
Yeah, maybe the lifeline. Cause I did 144 to one that was far away through the window. I think that was the lifeline. Who came in last? The Wraith after the robot and killed me?
I don't know. Too busy crying.
I don't know.
I couldn't see through all the tears in my eyes. There's somebody with a gun. I seen it. I don't ever want to see it again. So Joe, who else's birthday got missed? Yours got missed.
Janina's.
Mine. I think K-Town too, but
Yeah, I think
Whatever.
hers was late April, I think. I don't know.
so I was thinking maybe When the fucking ban is lifted, maybe we'll have like a big birthday bash for all the birthday people. You know.
It'll be the responsibility of everybody
And go out
else who's
somewhere
not
or-
birthday getting celebrated to buy all the drinks and do all the driving.
I mean, I'd be cool with that. But I'm also cool with taking Uber. Okay.
My shooters hop out of Ubers with bazookas they don't miss.
There's no way you can get caught
Yeah.
when all of a sudden, like, fucking Jesus or Jesus calls up Uber like, yo, some guy with a bazooka just hopped out my car and murdered 10
Yeah.
people.
He would have murdered more
Could be
except
good.
he ran out of bazooka bullets. I smell like kerosene. I don't know why. It's
What have
probably
you
not
been
good.
doing? Bazooka related antics?
I mean, I can only hope.
Homemade? You watch Always Sunny,
No.
Joe, or no? So I know you saw Making a Murderer.
Yeah.
And Zero, did you see Making a Murderer? I know you watch Always Sunny.
No, I didn't see that.
Because they have this episode that's like a spoof on Making a Murderer on Always Sunny. It's funny as shit.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
I
saw the
I
one
think it's
where they-
semi-new, last couple seasons.
Okay, yeah.
It is good.
I haven't seen any of the new Rick and Morty yet. I need to do that. People like the fan art.
I think there was only one yet. Oh, you didn't even see any of the first 5
Right.
episodes. Is it on Hulu yet? The first 5
I
of the
think
season,
so.
or no? They wait till the season's
No, I think
over?
Hulu gets it weekly.
Time for dinner. I got pork chops tonight. Yeah.
I know they do get other FX shows immediately.
Introducing your champion. On my path to win.
The one, just came back this Sunday. The one that played then, it was kind of real off the wall. Kind of hard to follow. Alright.
Almost like all them motherfuckers
No,
are
we
smoking
haven't-
meth.
What do I know?
Yeah. Almost like that. Smoking those space crystals.
Follow the leader.
You guys want to look around while I'm flying, see if it looks like anybody's coming?
Yep, we have a diamond
You know what we're
player
up against.
coming.
Oh, what's his name? Is that
I don't know.
Moses?
I can only tell by.
Oh shit! I fucked that
Yeah.
up. I fucked that up.
I got a sentinel.
Oh,
Got a
God.
Bernie stick.
2 people were on me.
Yep. Cool.
Where they at? Where they at?
And I'm burning.
They're behind you, Grim.
What the fuck? All that sliding and shit? I couldn't even fucking shoot her. Damn, she like punched me the last 2 times to kill me.
Yeah, there's somebody
And
else
then-
up to it.
The weird thing is I picked up 2 alternators and instead of reloading I hit switch weapon, but then I saw the reload animation, so it didn't really make sense. Yeah, maybe I got too close to that wall, huh?
I would have had one of them down, but their buddy got a gun and started shooting me in the side, so I couldn't even turn around before they killed me.
Fucking dick. Who does?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If the gods will it,
Damn, look at that cool ass samurai skin, bruh.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
You're against me, or you're with me and against me, because you will defeat. I'll be honest, that happens sometimes.
Mine's pretty cool too. I'm wearing like sweet ass pleather. It doesn't fit. It's pretty nice, man. Like zebra pants. Oh man, you don't even know how cool it is.
The tighter it is, the tighter it is.
Well, his jacket like is too loose. It's like a bag, a plastic bag hanging on him. Sweet, sweet supply ship. All right, where do you want to go?
Wherever.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Just turning on my music.
Hold your breath if you have to breathe.
All right, I'll start at this little building.
I've got it on Ice Cube radio on Pandora, and there's some child rapper that I've never heard of named Sammy. And the
Oh, he's almost as little
Oh, I
as
got
good
two
as
people
Lil
on
Bow
me.
Wow.
Oh, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead.
okay.
Where
I can't. I can't. I'm being executed.
You can't run when you're dead.
Damn, somebody just landed now? What the fuck is this shit? Alright. Somebody behind me, but I'm just gonna run straight towards you guys. I'll send the decoy. Ah,
Shit.
where are they? In the house? Oh, I see them. They're outside. They're outside.
Oh, there's 3 of them. I got 1 of them. I'm almost down. Got no other weapon. I got 2 rounds, and they'll start. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
There's a robot on the roof saying no.
Okay.
And he looks mean.
I'm on the roof. I'm looking. Shit. Oh, there's one on the fucking bridge.
I got this cow stick.
Oh, somebody's getting somebody up. Where's he fucking at? Yo, there's dudes on the robot is on the bridge. No,
Alright,
he's zipped over here now.
Is he the last one left? Oh shit.
Yep. He's on the roof above me. Oh,
He's
well.
running away. If you can escape, I
I
gotta.
Okay, I'm
medkit
escaping
for
you.
You can come to me. Yeah, come in here.
Damn it.
Give me a med kit. There you
Oh,
go.
I got. Okay, I'll give you 2 syringes.
I'm good. Keep him. Somebody's close. And there's a purple helmet in this box and a Spitfire. I could use heavy bullets. Do you need shield cells? I have shield cells.
I don't know yet.
Oh.
I gotta.
Alright, fuck it. I'm gonna go. Oh shit, they're still on the roof.
Okay.
This robot's moving in. You think he dropped down?
Yeah, he's.
They're in the- oh shit.
What the fuck? Is this?
Oh, she's almost dead, Zero.
She is
Oh,
dead
fine,
now.
dude.
Oh. Yeah, that was a hot drop.
Yeah,
Hottest of hot drops.
I mean, technically it was one squad. So,
Yeah,
but it
but
felt
they were-
pretty hot.
They were
It felt
turning it
pretty
up.
hot. They were turning that heat up. I'll be right back.
Oh man, this kid is not even a rapper. He's an R&B singer, and he's terrible. Terrible.
party.
Yep.
I'm gonna be a different character. What do you want to play, Joe?
I'm gonna stick with the guy, the Bloodhound.
Well, shit went way too fast, so I'm the same guy.
This is your champion.
Alright. Oh no, John Wick is the champion. I don't even think we could beat John Wick. Asian John Wick at that.
My legs are ready to go. Some assembly required.
There's probably going to be a lot of people dropping here.
Follow the leader.
So maybe she lands semi-close.
So we'll all hit that building, I guess.
All right.
Someone go downstairs. Maybe the wall. I don't know.
Yeah, we got enemies with us, and no guns. Where are the fucking guns in this motherfucking piece
I'm
of
missing all my
shit?
fucking shots. I'm done. God damn it, I'm done.
I'm having to run outside because I got no fucking gun.
Where are you at?
Yep.
You're in the middle? There's a shirt down here. Oh no.
Alright, I'll put that shirt on.
Put the shirt on, bro.
God damn, I still have no gun. No fucking gun anywhere.
Alright. Oh, you don't have. Oh, fuck. Well, this ain't gonna work.
There's fucking people in every fucking building. Oh my god. I'm trying to get a gun. I can't. I'm just going to instantly die if I run in with nothing.
Yeah.
Oh,
sneaky
shit.
Oh no.
See, that's
they
a
wouldn't
double
expect
sneaky.
that. They would,
How in the hell did all three of us land in that building? Yet they had guns before us when they landed in the same goddamn building. How did that work?
I got a gun like the same
don't
time
understand
it.
she picked up a gun. Right.
Did they
I
land
know
in the
they
middle?
beat in the top.
Did they land outside on the
line.
middle?
I don't know where she came from.
No one landed on the
I landed
roof.
in like the stairway and ran down. Ran down to the ground. There was an L store.
Okay.
And some bullets,
I
but
don't
yeah,
get
she
it.
got the flat line.
I landed on the bottom and there were no guns. I ran through the whole bottom. And you landed in the middle and Grim landed on the roof, but somehow they found guns elsewhere in the I don't get it. I mean, they were there with
That
us.
was just bad luck. It's bad luck. I mean,
There must have been guns. Are there guns
I hit
like out
3
on the fucking
piles
balcony?
and found one
No.
Mozambique. So, you know, it was just bad luck.
I just don't understand though. We were covering the whole building. I don't know where they.
Where'd you
I'm just
land
trying to
at,
figure
Zero?
out where they got. I landed at
Bottom
the front
door?
bottom door. There was no guns
There's still no
downstairs.
guns
Nobody
in
was
there?
in front of me. Nobody was
That's
in
just
front of
bad
me. I
luck
picked up
then.
a
So the
front-
whole building had, I guess, Elstar,
I just don't
Mozambique, and whatever they had.
Flat line.
I'm just
I
trying to
guess
figure
they
out where
landed
they
in
got
the
their
side
guns
doors.
from. Is what I mean.
They probably landed on a side door, opened it, and ran in.
Yeah,
and
maybe
just
they were right
happened
in
to
the
have a
middle
gun
or
there.
something. Yeah.
And oh, well, you know what? One of them probably picked up Joe's gun. So maybe
Yeah.
there was only one gun for their team, but well, shit happens. This is bad luck.
Yeah.
for the job.
Sorry to sound pissed. I was just don't.
Nah,
I didn't
I get
understand
it.
like
this
how
game
they.
can make me very
got
angry
weapons.
also. So I understand, bro. But yeah, sometimes you're just unlucky.
Yeah, I guess they opened the door
You
and,
know.
like you said, there was just a gun there in the hall or something.
Yeah, I hit the whole top building and the side and of the top roof, and it was just a Mozambique. You know, it's bad luck for me, bad luck for you. Bad luck for Joe because they landed where he landed.
To me,
It
bad
happened.
luck, yo.
It's a bad luck, yo. Just put some
Good night,
meatballs
puppy.
on it.
Say good night.
Good night, puppy. See you later, buddy.
Alright, nothing for that.
Yeah.
Joe, did you ever hear of a Gizmo?
Gizmo from Gremlins.
Like a pizza place. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah, from pizza
So
place.
there's a pizza place called Gizmo.
I didn't even
called
know it was
Gizmo.
a thing.
It's a place or a sandwich?
It's something you can order, right?
I
So
think it's like a gyro.
we were ordering from like
I don't really know.
so I'll explain it. So we were ordering from the Old Superior, whatever it's called now, I forget. And my brother just picked off the menu like, yeah, I'll take a Gizmo. He didn't even know what the fuck it was. He's like, yeah, I'll take it. So when it comes, it's like the bread from like a cheesesteak or, you know, like the French bread type bread or whatever. Laid
Sauce
down
and
with
cheese,
sauce
yeah.
and
It's a
cheese. So, like,
gyro,
you ever have
yeah.
homemade pizza like that? That's what a
Yeah.
gyro is? I thought a gyro was something else.
Greeks,
No,
yeah,
gyro's
Greeks
like a
have
lamb
a
pita.
thing, but there's also
Yeah, I thought gyros were lamb.
yeah, that's like a legit Greek.
I mean, lamb and
thing.
beef
Yeah,
or
that's usually
whatever.
on like a pita bread or something. But I've had gyros from pizza places that are basically a French bread pizza.
That's me. Or whatever. I mean, as long as we win.
Yeah,
Oh.
and it was like cheap as shit. I think it was like $2.50 or $3 or something. So it's like,
Oh, wow.
you know, I mean, you know, we used to make. You know, my mom makes that shit at my house. Like, she has extra bread, she'll like make some of that shit. But yeah, like it's like getting pizza, but like the home style, cheap style. And it was like cheap as shit.
Yeah, that's it's got to be filling.
I don't know.
yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, you get that. I'm sure
I'd be
you'd be full.
disappointed.
I mean, I'd rather
Yeah.
have pizza, but still, like if you're tight on loot, like
You probably make that for much cheaper.
probably. But if you're out and you're just getting something quick to go and you don't have money, some people
Just
might
don't
like
order
it.
the Gizmo.
That's
No,
the
I am never gonna make that mistake again.
special sauce.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah, the weird thing is he like wanted to make it on my
Surprise,
chest.
motherfucker. I ran back in that room and I was like, why are you still in there, Joe? That's what I'm thinking to myself. But it was just my my decoy.
Being a weird ass decoy, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think my decoys are enemies or you guys, like, not often, but it definitely happens more than it should, because you think I'd remember where I throw them. But it definitely happens, for sure.
Sniper ammo here, if you choose.
Actually,
Yeah, I think we looted this bitch pretty good.
I'm gonna drop this.
Here's some sniper ammo and a sniper stock.
Yeah,
You
I'm
have
going
shit?
sniper. I'm dropping this heavy. What's up?
He got the jet.
Yeah.
You got the what? What the
I'm
fuck?
thinking
I put-
about maining the
come on.
Spitfire.
Can you put that somewhere? I put it. I took it off and put it over here earlier, and he just fucking steals shit when no one's looking. My bad. What'd you say, Grim?
Did you lose another pair
No,
of slippers?
he
to the
stole-
dog?
Bastards.
One of Chibs' toys.
Oh,
Ooh, heavy mag. Who wants that cool guy
I'm a light and
shit?
sniper.
I picked one up there, so I don't be needing it.
I got no shield cells, but I got a shit ton of grenades.
Shield cell here.
Here's two for you, Mr. Joe.
Backpack here. Level 1. I need it.
What's going on? Why don't I have room for anything? God damn. Ugh. It's annoying.
You guys are like. Down.
Nobody's carrying a shotgun,
No.
are they?
I need a Lycon that has a stock. I get 99-301. or oh, here we go.
I mean,
And that, like,
And a prowler. I have like
nice.
my inventory filled up with fucking
I don't know where
bullshit.
those shield cells are. I thought I
In this
pinged
building
them.
here.
Okay, in this building.
And I
In fact, I
remember
did ping 'em.
you got them. There's something
No,
back
they're
here I
gone.
couldn't pick up. I can't remember what
Wait.
it was.
Oh, here.
Oh, in the Arc Star.
I probably accidentally picked it up. Here you go.
Thank you.
Here,
Oh, I thought you
have-
just found them.
I don't know, but I've got a battery and a cell left, so I'll drop 3 cells. So
Right now I have 8 little ones. And somebody who has less than me can share with them. So I only have fucking
I
white
got a
shirt.
battery.
Drop 2 little ones if somebody wants them.
No,
you need
it's
them,
fine.
Joe? You hearing
No.
shit?
I'll pull still.
I'm not.
Oh yeah, hostiles detected. They're like, I don't even see them.
Oh shit.
Sending out my decoy.
Yeah, that doesn't help. At least we know to be cautious.
Yeah, it looked like they were like
I'm gonna
having
work this
sex or
building.
some shit. It was. I guess it was the
top
dragon I saw, but it looked like.
Oh fuck, that was
Two
a,
things
oh
like-
fuck, that was a death paw.
Oh, here we go. Fucking prowler. God damn. Good shit. I do need optics, so it'll make me way more accurate with the prowler. It's all purpled out. Except no optics at all.
Can you, do you have your
Yeah.
ping again, Joe?
I can give you a U site. No hostiles.
Yeah, I could definitely
Maybe
use
they were
one of
just
them at
running.
least. Shank ya. Hopefully this will make me a savage
Yeah, I'm not
murderer.
doing nothing with it anyway.
Usually it
so-
does. Over there might not be looted. Are you guys finding anything here? Like good stuff up? Yeah, me either. Everywhere it goes like empty. I found a grenade. That's kind of cool. Just not even boxes. Like, they just pick up every single possible thing and then roll out. Oh, you know what I just saw? This zip line going from here all the way over there for some reason. I don't think that's usually there,
No.
right? That's somebody
Yep.
put that there. So they went that way. What the fuck's that way? Oh, up into artillery. That's that entrance there, where we run out
Oh,
of
shit's popping
sometimes.
Shield cell here.
over in this direction, so.
Oh, here's a 3X.
And sniper ammo in there too.
Shield cells. More little syringes.
Three-
Ah, too slow.
Someone's got to take out the new kill leader. They're too cocky.
Alright, where'd you hear these gunshots at?
Now I
I'm
hear
gonna go
some.
up the diving board. Sounds kind
That's
of far.
fine to me. Yeah,
In
it's
that
far for
direction,
sure.
something. I just heard something sound like it.
No hostiles
Might-
below us.
Anything? No. The Phoenix? Ooh, 301. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
it doesn't look like it's looted.
Some light ammo in there. Shield cells. Energy, sniper ammo, energy, light ammo. That's what's up here. Sniper, energy, and light ammo.
There's a choke. There's a choke
Level
in here,
what?
Joe. If
What was that level of?
there's
magazine?
a level
Or is it gone
me,
already?
but here's a level 2.
Oh, never mind. I forgot. I have purple. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I thought I had white for some reason. I'm a dummy. Nah, for your
You don't want
spine,
Spitfire, do you?
bitch.
I mean, it's in here if you want it.
I'm good.
Alright.
Syringe, light ammo.
Did one of y'all throw down a hemlock earlier that has like this, like a origami bird charm on it? It's like kind of green
Was
camo,
not me.
green antique looking shit. It's kind
Not
of neat.
I, sir. So there's probably people up here because of the
Okay.
rope. Oh, there's a care package shit in here? I'm gonna go for that. Ooh, oh, that bird. That's what I was hearing. That's. Fuck. I can't tell where the fucking thing is, whether it's on the roof or not. I hope it's
No,
up
it's
here.
right.
So is it,
It's got a blue box.
who
Me.
shot that gun? Oh, yeah, it is.
Can't even hit this fucking. There we go.
There's 4 little ones.
Somebody's flying in.
Somebody's. Okay. Oh, Joe, you're way away. I'm coming
They're
towards you.
flying
Yeah,
to you?
sounds like it. I don't see them, but I'm running away. Yep, they're shooting at me.
They're up on that gate where people go in the end.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's
yeah, I see 'em.
abuse, and we don't have to take it.
Oh, there's a blue shield over here, Zero.
How are they hitting me from there?
I mean, you might want to skip
thank
the
you.
snipe off.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
He's-
go.
he's-
Pick it up, Zero.
God damn, he's
Get
a good
that blue
shot.
Shirt. Coming here for this blue shirt.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Are you
He's
hearing
got to
somebody?
have a fucking sniper scope on that thing or something. No, he's hit me. He must have a 4X.
So if you want to move that way, we can move that
Bernie
way.
sticks
but
up here.
I don't have any room in my little bag. I got 2 though. I'm hearing them.
Okay.
Oh, right there.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
All
They're
3.
running in on us. Yeah,
they're
they're to the
here.
roof. They're to the roof.
Yeah, bitch. Go fuck yourself, homo.
Back here.
You guys still here, right?
I'm getting fucked up.
Okay. Back on Joe.
I'm going to get this other bitch.
I got
Okay,
one
yeah.
on
Thank
Joe.
you.
I don't see her. Oh, she's inside. So she's the last one.
Oh yeah, she's up here. She's up here. She's dead.
Good shooting, Zero.
What? Who's been? Oh, was that you?
Some of the first
Who
I've done.
was shielding the whole
Me,
time?
I was
Yeah.
shielding because I got fucked up in the beginning.
Oh,
Fuel batteries
I
in
kept
there.
hearing that,
Syringes
so I'm
in
like,
there.
looking on the inside, like, oh, I can hear her in there. I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get her. That was you the whole time I was there. Oh, I'm a dummy.
Yeah, when you guys are done looting, look at this hemlock skin. It's kind of interesting. It's
Oh
not mine.
yeah.
Oh, there's a wraith hole. Was that them?
Well,
There was a
wasn't
wraith
me.
among them, I think.
Wait, where's the 3rd box then? Dude,
Uh,
is there more than 2 upstairs?
Well, one of them jumped off. No. One of them jumped off.
I smell victory.
That first dude that we downed, yeah, he like fell off the edge as he died.
So there's 2 boxes up here.
So he could have crawled like a far distance. Who knows where he went?
I mean, they were killed pretty quickly after that. Probably on the other side of that, yeah, cannon thing.
Maybe 20 seconds. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything over here.
It's right here.
Ah,
No, of
right
course
here.
he had something. I don't know
It's
where he.
right where he
Okay.
fucking fell when he died. He didn't fucking leave from that spot.
Man, they got fucked up for running in on us like some G's.
Do you have any extra med kits? I have 0.
There's a Phoenix
Yeah.
kit.
Trying to pick
Well,
them up. I couldn't
yeah, I'll
grab
drop a
them.
med kit. Well, okay, you got one. All right. Well, I'll yeah. Here's one too. So yeah, I got a Phoenix kit and a med kit left.
Is there
So.
any throwables anywhere?
No, there were
No.
throwables upstairs.
Oh, is there in those boxes?
No,
was
in the
there?
room upstairs. In the,
Oh
in
shit!
the
Something's
room.
popping. Something's popping. Did you guys hear that explosion?
I just opened the door.
Oh, maybe that was it.
I'm popping.
I guess
bro.
that was
what are
it.
you fucking barking
It
at?
kind of sounded like a grenade reverberating. You.
Shut up, Opie. You're barking at ghosts. There's no ghosts in here.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I have 2 frags.
Okay, yeah, no, we're in here. I guess you got those.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm getting rid of my syringes. I put 4 syringes. Well, there's 8 in here now. I feel like I won't use more than 2 medkits for the last 2 squad fight. Alright.
Only
So
2
there's
other
probably
squads.
a zip line leading up there, unless they flew there. 'cause that's where they started.
They
from.
jumped down and well, I'm
Get out from. Get out. You're not allowed under there.
I mean, I'm not saying I want to go there. I'm just saying people might try to go there. That's where everybody goes.
Unthrow it anyway. You can go look.
Oh, also, we probably want the last 2 squads to engage first. But if you guys want to
Yeah,
go on, I see them.
I mean,
they're out there. Out
okay.
in the boonies over there.
You see one
Right-
squad, right?
Exactly right there. One guy. That's all I'm
okay.
saying. All I'm seeing. He's hiding behind that.
He's probably the
I feel like
fucking
he's a
scout.
bitch. I don't know.
I thought we wanted to let them engage. Are we pushing them?
Yeah, but they saw us. I'm gonna
I'm
keep
up
right here. Just
here
keep
on
an
the-
eye. Let me know if you see him go. either
Okay,
way.
yeah, I don't see him moving yet.
Alright,
Enough.
listen good.
Enough.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're by
okay.
himself.
Well, yep. Yeah, as soon as you loot him, you might want to come back
Got
here to
him.
our little
Alright.
perch.
I'll go to the balloon. Don't forget to look
shit.
behind you. They might creep in through there too. We don't know where the
Okay.
ones are.
Yep, they are.
Yep, they're coming
All right.
behind that little.
There's some. Yeah, there's
They're
someone
inside there
closer.
too. Grim, I'm not moving in on them. Oh, shit. Hey, they're Grim. They're behind. I'm charging.
They're running away. They're fucked up, bro. Hit a couple. of them
Okay,
with
okay,
grenades and shit.
we're coming. We're coming.
Oh, I'm getting burned.
They're in here.
Shouldn't have ran into that. Should I have?
Oh wait,
coming.
you just disappeared. What the fuck was that? What?
Oh,
He was fucking there. He just like disappeared. He didn't duck. That's I don't fucking know.
got one dude. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
There's still 2. I fucked both of them up pretty good.
That's enough. Open.
They're shielding up.
That's enough out of you.
They're right there, Zero. Nice. There's one left. Kai, you should probably shield up. They won't be able to get the other ones up. I'll tell you if they're coming towards you.
Okay.
You have a Phoenix? No?
Yeah. Are they coming?
They're
Fuck,
back
he's got a
down
nade.
over
He's
here.
over
He's
there.
got a fucking nade.
Oh, they're here. They're right here. They're coming now.
God damn it.
That was good.
God fucking
Good
damn it.
shooting.
Shotgun.
Don't take this personally.
Thanks. Yo, how did that kid get up?
Because they get back up
How-
after the game's over.
Yo,
Apex
what?
champions.
I've been in games where we've won, and I've been down, and I'm still on the ground.
You shouldn't. If you're not dead,
Maybe I'm crouched or something. Maybe
yeah.
I'm
If you're
crouched.
dead, if you're
What are you
boxed,
saying
then you stay boxed. But if you're just down, you get back up.
Yeah,
No,
if you're crouched
I
and
must
you
have
win,
just
you
been
can run around
crouched.
all of a sudden. For sure, 100%.
Yeah, I must have just been yeah.
Jesus.
We got plenty of points
All right,
anyway.
That's it. It's 2 o'clock for me. That's it for me. It's 2 o'clock. Kenobi is being a pain in the
All
fucking
right, good
balls.
games, good games.
So
Alrighty.
let's see.
Yeah,
I got some.
Got
I
a
got
few more minutes.
88 points. So yay for me.
You got more than I did.
Is it?
How
How
many
many
kills you
days
got?
2
left?
assists.
Oh, you're silver. That's why.
There are, I don't know how many days. 4 days left.
Oh, okay. Well, we can probably get you to gold 4 by the time that shit
By the time we
rolls
get
around.
knocked down to bronze. I'm sure we're all going to bronze.
Yeah,
100%.
you were
Is
you
that the
started
lowest
out about a
bronze?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're going back. For sure. Because they
They-
do 2 levels, right? And we're only gold.
It's like 6,
Probably start at the same level, whether we're
6
silver or
things.
gold.
Or at least it was last.
So probably bronze 2 or something.
Are you close to gold, Joe? So at least that would
No.
be what?
Yeah, like halfway.
1 extra bronze step. But I feel like bronze you burn through real fast anyway, because it's lower targets to move up, right?
Yeah.
I need like 300,
Did-
220 some points. So,
Were you about a quarter of the way to gold when we started? tonight?
I don't know. I mean, I lost.
I think you're better
I
than
lost
when
a
you
bunch
started
of. I
tonight.
mean, there were a couple games where I got a little bit just because we came in like better than 10th place. But I don't know. I lost a bunch of games. I lost 12 points on, so I have no idea. I don't know what I was at.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of games though where we made like that last game was probably like 60 something points, or at least 50 something, and then like
Okay,
I know
yeah,
we had
80 something,
another.
we just said?
Maybe it was, yeah. Oh yeah, I want to see what I got. Yeah, I got 76.
I had
Okay.
7. Yeah, I got 7.6 as well.
So,
All right. Well, have a good night, Joe.
adios,
If you come back
fellas.
on before the end of the week,
Good
try to get that
games,
gold
mate.
Yeah, I'll
shit.
probably be on tomorrow. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, or we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right. Adios, fellows.
Yeah. Later, Joe.
Adios. Want to take it off, right?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, so that's it for me. I got a headache. I am frustrated. Alexa, pause. So I want to thank you for stopping by. Whether it was Facebook, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, whether you were here for a minute, 5, 10, or an hour. It means a lot to me. It means the world to me. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank Grim for the games. Thank Zero for the games. I want to shout out to BK13 for stopping in. Retro Slide for the follow. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I might be doing Call of Duty tomorrow. I don't know. Something. I'm getting annoyed at Apex. And not just annoyed, but like, I don't know. It's not. It's feeling repetitive. So when I watch it, like I watch my clips when I'm making them, it looks like fun, but I don't know. It's losing its appeal. So we'll see what season 5 brings. But thank you for coming in. I really do appreciate it. Also, the engagement I get on my social medias, I really appreciate that. The likes on the Facebook stream and the post and the Instagram, especially. It's Mechanic on all socials. Except Twitter, it's Mechanic G. Also, I have another Instagram that's art.mechanic that I do drawings and illustrations and paintings and stuff. I'm going to be doing some, probably painting this weekend, some art this weekend with the girlfriend. So I'll be posting that. If I finish it, I'm not going to post like a painting work in progress. But yeah, thank you for stopping.